It's like the Stanley Cup of pants.
Yeah.
Welcome to Sincast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Sincast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hey, hi.
Mm-hmm.
No, those were both me. Hey, hi.
We got a couple of little hays and highs
Hi.
in there, like some partial hellos. And for music video since Barrett Share.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Barrett has never seen The Wire.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
I just wanted to shame you, first and foremost.
Oh, my
I think
God.
I watched the first episode.
That's actually worse.
It is actually worse.
Mm.
I did that same thing with The Sopranos. I watched the first episode, and then like 10 years later, I watched the entire series.
And you liked it.
And I loved it.
Well, then eventually you'll get to it. I'm not going to shame you too much.
You want to see a show that actually, like, gives you actual police work rather than I called some guy, some bartender, and, like, the bartender remembers out of 500 people who was at the bar that night and all that, like
Yeah.
Law and Order does and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, Batman movies could learn a lot from The Wire
Oh, yeah?
in terms of showing us detective work. The Dark Knight does some of that, I think, pretty well. But most Batman movies, they forget that he's supposed to be like a master detective.
Yeah,
and
it's just all ass
punching.
kicking, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just him looking at a billion screens
An absurd amount
and,
of
like,
screens.
rewinding and forwarding.
And then stopping when he, like pausing
That's
right on
pretty
Joker's
much,
face.
That's pretty much his detective work. But today we're going to go back on our road trip.
On the road again.
The most time-honored tradition of all, the road trip.
Oh, the places you'll go.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
And this time, it is Maryland.
Maryland.
Yes.
One of us has lived in Maryland.
I have.
And a couple of us have driven through there on other ways to better states. No, just kidding.
Tis a beautiful country.
Yeah.
One of us has a cousin who lives there. He lives in Salisbury. This is crazy because I just saw an article the other day. It was like the 10 cities most likely to be the next Nashville in terms of like rapid boom in culture and citizens. And I saw Salisbury, Maryland on the list. And I've been here because I've visited my cousin and my uncle who live there. And it's like, in my head, it's like a town of like 80,000.
Oh, yeah?
And I clicked the article and I'm reading and they have like 600,000 citizens, but like half of them have shown up in the last 10 years.
Oh.
Like the city has doubled in like 5 or 10, some astronomical rate.
And
now it's this bustling metropolis.
Is there a reason?
I don't know why it's booming so fast.
Mhm.
I'll ask my cousin Randy.
It's on the Wacomico River.
There you go. It's not on the Atlantic or the Chesapeake like some idiots think. It's actually in the center of. It's a nice, quaint little city. I actually was surprised to learn it had grown so much because it was so rinky-dink when I was there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Maryland, Baltimore.
Yeah,
I spent
Maryland.
the first 5.5 years of my life in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And I have flashes of memories. I know that's why I like the Orioles, and we went to a lot of Orioles games at Memorial Park, not Camden Yards. I still have never actually been to Camden Yards.
Oh.
Much to my shame. There's a great fort there, Fort McHenry, that was involved in one of the wars. Went there a bunch as a kid. Harbor, very Boston-like. I remember seeing some kind of fancy boats when I was little.
Ah.
Again, I'm 4 years old.
Well, there's
so
like an inner harbor. That's like the hip part of town, right?
I think it is now.
Yeah.
And I think obviously it's changed a lot since I was there.
It used to be where you dump bodies.
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
Or where you release fishmen.
I lived there before Avon Barksdale and this crew came to town. Anyway, it doesn't pertain at all to the movies that are set there, or because I just
Fond memories of Baltimore?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, as fond as memories of being a 5-year-old can be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really. I don't have those memories. Aren't really good or bad. They just
Well,
kind
this
of
is
are.
why you're also a Colts fan, too, because Baltimore was Baltimore Colts.
Yes, and they actually the Colts famously ditched Baltimore in the middle of the night, loaded up everything, and moved to Indiana. And that was the same year we moved to Indiana from Baltimore.
Nice.
So we always joked that the Colts followed us. So yeah, I'm a Colts fan. I'm an Orioles fan. I'm a Predators fan. And I guess if I'm forced to choose watching basketball, I'll choose Pacers. Maybe.
Yeah.
I've been to a Pacers game.
Yeah. checks out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
They were almost good one time.
Yeah, but when Reggie Miller was there, they were at least threatening a couple of times. It was fun. Anyway, let's talk about Maryland.
Okay, so the first one right off the bat is a good one, 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Now,
it doesn't strike me as a Baltimore
that's right.
movie.
I think of Philadelphia more when I think of 12 Monkeys because that's where most of the city stuff seems to be set, unless it's Baltimore for Philadelphia.
No, it's Baltimore that they do all the action in. The detention facility is in Philadelphia. So maybe they go back and forth, but the bulk of the action happens in Maryland.
Okay.
Like the psychiatric facility, Madeline Stowe's office, and all that stuff all happens.
This is the last movie that Terry Gilliam made that was both his kind of style, but just mainstream enough to get an audience out of it. After this, all he ever made was stuff like he'd always been making that was just not accessible. I mean, I love a guy who can just go in and say, I'm going to make some weird shit. and
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is not accessible
No,
for a lot of people.
not
I
at
love
all.
it, but it's not accessible.
Again, everybody you know that loves that movie, and I'm not talking about you, but prior to you just saying that, everybody I've ever met that loves that movie loves drugs.
Yeah.
And almost certainly watched that movie on some measure of drugs. And I bet you it's badass when you do that.
I guess so. I would be almost horrified to watch that movie.
I mean, it depends on the drug, I would imagine. But I think you get yourself a nice little buzz from some weed or something. That movie's probably pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. But 12 Monkeys is definitely 12 Monkeys is like it makes you think even beyond like normal time travel movies. Like that always kind of provides a wrinkle. But this has got great performances and a really cool mystery to it and all that stuff, compounded with these visuals that Terry Gilliam does.
yeah, it's loosely based on a French movie called La Jetée that if you ever watch that, it's basically it's a short film of still images and everything, but it's the same kind of deal, like, somebody's going back in time and all that. But this movie, it didn't do crazy great at the box office, but I think it's got it's built an audience over the years where it's now, I think, considered a classic. But this is Bruce Willis at his best. This is Brad Pitt at his best. Brad Pitt apparently doesn't like his performance in this, but I do.
I just remember this movie being part of 2 or 3 movies. I think 7 was one of them where Brad Pitt got the transition from hunk to actor. And this was one of the ones where I remember being surprised that he had as much acting talent as he did, because prior to this, he's more of a pretty boy. River runs through it, and he's a hunk. He wasn't known for his acting, I don't think, until he started doing this and 7. And there's one more I'm forgetting that's right in the same line, and it's not Meet Joe Black.
7 years in the Fall, maybe.
I don't know. And then and from then on, he's been kind of like a well-respected actor.
Yeah. But yeah, he got nominated for this too. And
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a great performance. He's so fucking unhinged.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it kind of foreshadows like his performance in Fight Club, where he can be like manic and unhinged and stuff like that. But
That's
here
the
he's
one I was
full.
thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Fight Club.
Yeah, here he's just full out, like stretching his legs, doing whatever he wants to do, hyper manic, and like all these little ticks, things like that. That make him look even crazier than he is, and then of course he mellows out later on.
And Christopher Plummer's great in the Kevin Spacey role.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's Brad Pitt's dad in this, right?
Yeah. One of the things I like about this movie that most time travel movies don't do is that it muddies up the protagonist's own viewpoint. He becomes unsure of what's real and what's what time, and the process of traveling through time does kind of like on Quantum Leap. It Swiss cheeses his brain to the point where he has to acclimate every time, and details get lost, and so it keeps you unsettled as a viewer. Unlike something like Back to the Future, where Marty knows exactly what's going
clean,
on.
Yeah.
It's also another one of those where the time travel is not set to change anything. The time travel is set to help the people in the future figure out what they need to do. And so, like, a lot of his memories as a child of this incident and everything that happens is actually what happened and everything, even though his memory keeps changing who it is.
It sort of closes the loop in a way that a lot of time travel movies don't even attempt to do.
So 12 Monkeys is fantastic. I don't know how many. We haven't talked about that movie very much. On
Not
this
a whole
podcast,
lot. Yeah.
but I really, really, really like it, and
Yeah.
I wholly recommend it
Absolutely.
if you haven't seen it.
Even better than that is the underseen sequel, 13 Monkeys.
That's right. That's right.
Where
And,
Julia Roberts plays herself.
well, and you know Bruce Willis was in that because he loves those number movies. Man.
monkeys!
That's right. Then a movie I have seen, but I do not remember anything about, The Accidental Tourist.
Oh.
Yeah, me too. It's William Hurt and Gina Davis, and is it Kathleen Turner? I think is the other one.
I think that's right.
But yeah, he's in this like love triangle with two gorgeous women, and I think he keeps going back to one and back to the other one and that kind of thing. I remember really enjoying it, but I mean, this is 1988, I think, or something like that. So I don't remember a whole lot of it. I just remember it's good. It was up for Academy Awards.
Yeah, well, and this was in my early years of watching the Oscars, and I remember kept hearing this name over and over again. It gets to a point when you're a kid, and I'm sure that I was one of the rare 11-year-olds watching the Oscars. but like you hear a name enough, you start getting annoyed with it. You're just like, The Accidental Tourist. What does that mean? That's stupid. And I've never seen the movie, so it can't be good. But
It was scored by John Williams too.
oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a Lawrence Kasdan movie too, because Lawrence Kasdan and William Hurt like to work together a bunch.
Yeah, it is good. I'd like to watch it again. Actually, I don't know if it won, but it was definitely up there with
Let's
all the
see
nominees.
what it did. Actually, it won. Oh, it did win for Gina Davis, and it was nominated for Best Picture and Screenplay and Original Score, of course. 'Cause John Williams.
It's John Williams.
And then we have And Justice for All. Al Pacino at his Al Pacinoiest.
It is, but this is early Al Pacino-isms, right? I
This
mean,
is where I think people really came to love him shouting more.
Well, yeah, I guess, was this before Dog Day Afternoon?
This
Dog
was
Day-
after. This was
yeah,
well after. But, I mean, Dog Day Afternoon does have some shouting, but it's really the Attica scene.
Right.
It's this where, you know, you're out of order, you know, and all that. That's where people start, like, this is what informs us of his 90s career later on.
This whole trial is out of order. He even almost parodies this in Sin of a Woman, where he's doing a bad man. What does that mean? What the fuck is that? I'd take a fucking flamethrower to this place.
Other than that, though, I don't remember much about the movie.
Oh, it's terrific, man.
Yeah.
Like he's this highfalutin attorney that is assigned to these innocent cases that he can't get justice for, and then guilty cases that he's got to argue, and that's where he ends up losing his shit at the end. Is that he drops this case. Like he says, that's it. I cannot in good conscience defend this. I think he's defending a judge or something like that. I can't do this. This whole system is fucked, and that's what leads to that outburst and the whole courtroom cheering him and everything. And at the end of it, I think he ends up getting disbarred or about to get disbarred, and he was, was it worth it? That kind of thing. So it's really, really good.
This is Norman Jewison, who has made a lot of great movies, but we don't talk about him very often in that same group with all the other 70s guys and everything. But he made a lot of great movies.
Kind of sounds like Liar Liar. Like kind of makes me. I've never seen Injustice for All, but it kind of makes me wonder if the guys that wrote Liar Liar didn't go, "What if there was a comical version of Injustice for All?" Because that's its whole arc is discovering how corrupt the whole system is and his own kind of existence as a lawyer. Anyway,
overactor.
Yeah. Just a man.
Every time I pour water, I'm doing this thing now where I'm buying jugged water, like spring water, instead of just bottled water all the time, because I'm trying to reduce my plastic a little bit.
Yeah.
Not that it's going to matter. There's plastic in our fucking shellfish now. Anyway, every time I pour from the jug into some kind of container, I go, "For this, you will pay a terrible price." Does that lid on the water jug?
Yeah. Then there's Annapolis, another movie I've seen, have since forgotten. I know that James Franco and Tyrese Gibson are in this movie, and it's about the Naval Academy.
And I think they do a little bit of ending racism.
Yes.
Oh, they ended racism
I'm
in
pretty
this
sure
movie?
there's a little bit of that.
Using boxing.
Way
Yeah,
back in
boxing.
2006, huh?
Yeah.
Look how far we've come.
That's crazy.
Movies about boxing circuits that aren't the main, like, actual boxing, like prison boxing circuits. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Undisputed?
Yeah.
Yeah, not good. We should probably not make movies about those boxing circuits. I'm just saying.
No, this is not a good movie. I think Justin Lin directed this.
Justin Lin.
And it was just gauzy and, you know, I remember a lot of shots of Franco, like, shirtless and stuff like that, and just not good.
Yeah.
Have you guys caught a movie the other day that I think was Justin Lin's first movie about a bunch of troublemaking affected Asian kids in
Is
the
that
U.S.?
Better Luck Tomorrow?
Yes, Better Luck Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I had never seen that before, and I found it pretty
It's a good
enjoyable.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, he went from this to the Fast and Furious somehow.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. No, Better Luck Tomorrow is a really good movie. I haven't seen it in forever, but sort of informed us of an up and coming talent at the time. And he's still, I mean, it depends on what you think of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yep.
I mean, you know, he's good at doing that, I guess, because it's so successful. But yeah. I'd like to see him do something other than, I'd like to see him do more Better Luck Tomorrow type.
Yeah, I would too.
Then there's a triumvirate of Blair Witch Project movies.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is weird because it is more of a New Jersey thing because it's the Jersey Devil and everything is what they're basing all
Right,
that
right.
on or whatever. But yeah, it is Maryland. I guess they went, you know, cross the state lines to be like it's kind of Jersey Devil, but not really.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to be honest. Never heard of the Jersey Devil until this moment.
Really?
I got to assume that's what the hockey team is named after.
Now the actual, well, I'm sure it is. Now there is a movie called what is it called? Last Broadcast.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Nice pull.
It's found footage, right?
Yeah, it's a found footage movie that came before the Blair Witch
right.
Project that focuses on the Jersey Devil, actual Jersey Devil or whatever. Like that's what the people went out to the woods to go see and everything. And it's an interesting movie. I don't know if I would call it good, but it does have a really good ending to it. I don't know if I would want to say anymore because it's one of those type of movies, right? Like watch it on your own, see what you think. But it is one of those movies you watch it and it's like, I don't know if this is good or not. It's really setting up its ending is what it's really doing.
Kind of like the Blair Witch.
Yeah, Blair Witch as well.
Although I found the Blair Witch Project, the first one, to be pretty terrifying. And I've watched it about 3 times or so. And I feel like I'm unsettled, if not scared, through all of them.
Yeah, you know, the original Blair Witch Project, I really like it. But it also informs us of a lot of the horror movies that are coming out nowadays that are trying this type of, not found footage, but this type of like sounds and atmosphere and everything.
Well,
are
like
more
The
important.
Witch is fairly well informed by this movie, I think.
Yeah, The Witch and Hereditary, which I'll be talking about later on in this episode. You know, where they're not looking for that satisfying jump scare type of, like, you know, they're not looking for pop horror or whatever. I don't think they ever made Blair Witch Project to be as big as it was. I mean, the movie would cost, like, I don't know, anywhere from $300 to $10,000, whatever you want to believe or whatever. And then it ends up being a nearly, I think it was $100 million hit. And it's just, the whole movie is just about the dread and the feeling you get during the entire thing. Like, they're walking through these woods. They're not making any progress. They're turning on each other. There's just the faintest of sounds in the background. There's things that you hear that you're sure you didn't for real. Cause you just want, like, you're just like anticipating something.
Wouldn't you rather, because you like horror movies, I know Jeremy, you don't, do you crave that spine tingling chill over your body, or do you crave the jump scare, the quick hit thing? Because the especially the last scene of Blair Witch Project gave me that, like, goose flesh.
I like
complete chills.
I like having that feeling of, I don't know what's going to happen, and there are no, like, you know, boo moments. I like the idea of just constantly, like, looking at the screen and wondering if something's going to pop out. And it's a feeling that's hard to describe, really. and we'll get into that later, but it's just, I like that about Blair Witch Project is just there, you can watch that movie and just say it's boring.
That's true. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
But for me, I imagine myself in this situation, how just dreadful that would be.
Yep.
Just to sort of like, God, I don't think I'm going to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a place where I can't even communicate with anybody to tell them where I'm at.
Yeah.
I think where horror lost me was at least 80s and 90s horror was the reliance on the jump scare and the gore.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a lot of slashing and blood in horror when I was a kid that even if my parents had let me watch it, I wouldn't have wanted to watch. And I enjoy a thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Like I enjoy something like Alien or even The Shining or 2001, which I think could arguably be called a horror movie, where there is that kind of slow building dread. And so I think that's why I do like the original Blair Witch. I think everything else that's come since then is terrible.
Yeah.
Have you watched the remake? Not the remake, but the new one?
Not the new one. I didn't even give it a look.
I liked the new one more than I probably should have.
Interesting.
And I mentioned this before on the podcast because I randomly watched it one day, and I immediately texted Jacob over at Modern Horrors, and I was like, "What did you guys give the new Blair Witch?" Because I kind of liked it. It's not a total success by any means, but by the end of it, I was like, I kind of got along with what this movie was pitching here.
Interesting.
And it's not just a straight up remake or anything like that. It's got new ideas about where this Blair Witch Project stuff can go. And of course, unfortunately, it didn't do anything. So we're never going to see a progression of that until somebody else, if somebody else remakes Blair Witch or tries to reboot it or whatever, it'll be a completely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of these though in here, apparently Barrett, you think this has got a cult audience, is Book of Shadows, the
Yes.
Blair Witch 2, which was directed by Joe Berlinger, who did the Paradise Lost documentary.
Oh,
the
really?
West Memphis 3 stuff.
Huh.
I was so excited for this because of that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie looked well shot, beautiful. And in fact, it is. It's very beautifully
well
shot.
shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, instead of going beyond, instead of continuing the story, the people in the movie are aware of the Blair Witch Project.
Right.
And then they go out to the same area, and of course, bad shit happens anyway.
Yeah, it's so over the top. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when I watched this back in, 2000,
I think it was
2001 or something like
yeah.
that, when it came out, I too was excited because I like Blair Witch Project so
Mm-hmm.
much. And it was almost like The Craft and The Coven. And like The Craft. I mean, it was just
crowd.
I mean, it was
I
just
have basically
it was
wiped
stupid.
that movie from my memory.
That used to be like women our age love them some The Craft,
Oh, yeah,
man.
That's how we
Oh,
got
yeah.
Evanescence, isn't it?
I think so. I think that's how they were born.
But yeah, no, this was really disappointing. But in the Wikipedia entry for Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, there's two sections under response, critical response, of at the time and then renewed interest or something like that, like contemporary and then going back to it. And apparently people, after, I guess releasing it from the baggage of the original movie, they were like, oh, maybe this is better than you think. And it wasn't those articles of like why Book of Shadows is secretly a classic. It was like a consensus
Yeah,
opinion.
I was railing against that recently. And then like 2 days ago, there was an article that was like, why The Happening deserves more credit for the
man.
balls that it had.
Oh, my God.
And like, I think Simser was the guy that responded and was like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The Book of Shadows does have Jeffrey Donovan, who is what's the show he was on? Was it it was Burn Notice I think a lot of people like Jeffrey Donovan these days too, is another reason why this movie may have gotten some extra kick. It's a 4.0 on the IMDb.
Yeesh.
So it hasn't all these cult fans have yet to push this up in any way. Maybe it was in the 3s. Who knows? But yeah, and I never really liked it just because it was just the reasons for the characters do stuff that they don't remember, and I guess that's kind of creepy or whatever. But you sit there and follow the the logic of a lot of this stuff. They robbed a gas station and blew away the clerk and all that. And they have to see videotape of it and all that. I don't know. I guess it does have some sort of appeal, but that always was disappointing to me. Mm-hmm. Then after all that, we've got the Bourne Legacy.
Yeah.
That's only Bourne movie, I guess, that's got Maryland ties.
Yeah, because obviously Renner's up in
house.
Alaska. Her house is in outside of rural Maryland.
Like the least interesting set piece in the whole movie.
Exactly.
Is Maryland.
Oh, I think that's interesting because it's got that one shot of Renner going up to the house. And
I'm serious.
and
that house
Elizabeth
should
Marvel.
be condemned.
Yeah. Well,
that house has wood rot all throughout it. Like that thing is falling apart.
It doesn't last long.
Anyway, I like the Bourne Legacy more than most, and I think that's strangely a popular opinion to have these days. Because this is one of those movies, like you were just saying about Book of Shadows, only I think this is more so here, is that it was poorly received when it came out, and then as people have gone back for a second viewing, they're like, hey, this is better than I remembered it, because we were, I think, overly harsh on its lack of Matt Damon, its lack of Bourne, even though the movie tries so hard to put it in that same time period and universe. And Jeremy Renner maybe wasn't quite ready to carry a film.
I don't know. I thought he was.
I thought he was great in the role
because he'd been in quite a few things just before that. That I mean, there should have been able to inform a good leading performance and everything. I think since that movie, though, he's kind of enjoyed taking that character actor role or that secondary
He did like
role.
2 Mission Impossible movies where he's like playing second fiddle to everyone.
And you could almost read into that and say, well, if Tom Cruise ever wanted to leave Mission Impossible, maybe he could take over or whatever, because he's basically that same kind of badass.
I'll go you one step further. I think that's what they were planning with Ghost Protocol, was setting up the next phase, and something happened within Tom Cruise doing those stunts on that film.
Hey, I think the fact that Ghost Protocol made way more money than they thought was a big thing. And I think he and I don't know if he's still with his producing partner. I think so. I think they own Mission Impossible essentially.
That wouldn't surprise me.
And so
he has all the money.
He does.
Like
so
all of it.
Then it kind of makes sense that he's turned into this thrill seeker, right? Because he doesn't need money.
No.
If he's going to do a project, there's going to be something in it for him. Yeah. God, I'm so ready for this movie.
I am too.
I am too. I'm ready.
I'm so excited. It brings us on to now this could very well be called the John Waters episode, because
exactly.
John Waters is a Maryland or maybe from Baltimore.
Yeah, he's from Baltimore.
A filmmaker, as is Barry Levinson, who I don't think has many on this list, but he has a couple.
Yeah, well, he's got 4 movies that are like his Baltimore 4 or whatever it is, and the only one that I've seen is Diner out of that. Well, but he's got other ones.
Didn't he create Homicide, the TV show?
Barry Levinson?
I think he was part of that.
I'm not sure. I think a lot of the people with The Wire were part of that too.
Yeah, David Simon, I think, was a writer on Homicide. Yeah. But that was set in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think I've seen Diner. What are the other ones that he did that are Baltimore centric?
One's Avalon, which I saw a long time ago. Avalon and Diner, and then I think even some parts of The Natural were shot in Baltimore, even though there was nothing in Baltimore. But anyway, John Waters, we have a few here. Cecil B. Demented, which I've never seen. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah, okay. This is Stephen Dorff as a gonzo director that tries to get these realistic situations, and he and his crew kidnap Melanie Griffith, who's playing this superstar actress, and force her to be in his gonzo film, and she ends up developing Stockholm syndrome and actually ends up like willingly participating in these things. It's very stylized. It's very unlike a John Waters movie in a lot of ways, and then a lot of silly, like gross ways it is. But Stephen Dorff is great in it. I enjoyed watching it. It was 2000, I think, is when it came out.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I should probably know more John Waters movies, and I think there's only 1 or 2 that I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
Mainly because of the gross out stuff that I've always heard about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see that. It's one of those, when people were saying in Pink Flamingos, all this stuff's going on, I'm like, Well, do I really want to see that?
Yep, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, Levinson was the executive producer of Homicide.
Ah, okay.
And then made a TV movie called Homicide the Movie.
That's right.
What a clever title.
Yes.
The Transformers, the movie.
That's right. Then there's another John Waters, Crybaby, which I've never seen.
You've never seen Crybaby?
Never seen
I
it.
saw Crybaby. I went through a Johnny Depp phase, and this is the movie where I realized I didn't like John Waters films. So I'm not sure I've ever seen any other one since.
It's a weird juxtaposition. It's not his most mainstream. We'll get to his most mainstream offering, Pecker, later on. But Crybaby was him like really trying to go into the mainstream because it's a period piece. It's back in 50s or 60s or something like that.
Yeah.
It's, a Jets versus Sharks type of thing.
Yeah.
Like they've got their own gang, and Johnny Depp is Crybaby. And it's like an exploration of classes and, high school life and things like that. I think it may be post high school. It's not memorable for anything other than Johnny Depp's performance, though.
Yeah, I do remember quite a few people loving this movie, and if it wasn't loving the movie, they just loved Johnny Depp in it and everything. It's like this and 21 Jump Street were the things that made Depp a semi-star. He was not huge yet,
Right.
and he would not be huge until Pirates of the Caribbean came out, but he was always this guy you could count on for these weird performances and everything, and really good ones that went unnoticed for a really long time. But yeah, Crybaby's one of those movies I just never have seen it.
It's not essential viewing, but it is enjoyable. I mean, it's really well shot. It's got some of that John Waters elements. It's not gross out humor or anything like that. But it's just that wackiness, that irreverence that is in John Waters stuff. And Depp is really good.
And there's three right in a row here. A Dirty Shame is another John Waters movie, and I've never seen that.
Now, that's the one with Johnny Knoxville and Tracy Ullman. And that one's funny. That's maybe the funniest John Waters movie that I've seen. Because it's this repressed society where nobody talks about sex or anything like that. And then there's this subset of people that have had traumatic brain injuries that are now completely uninhibited about sex.
Oh, yeah.
And more the town becomes on this side of things, and it becomes this crazy situation of sexual exploitation.
I like
that.
John Waters, the person, more than I like his movies.
Yeah,
and of course, like I said, I haven't seen many, but and maybe I should just to get that under my belt, because
Sure.
I'm a guy who's supposed to know stuff about movies. But like I remember him talking about how he's like, a lot of people watch my movies and they like, I can't watch this. This is like 10 minutes in. I can't watch this. Well, now you know how I feel when I put Forrest Gump in my VCR. And I had to stop at about 10 minutes in.
Oh, he's great. He's got that pencil thin
Yeah,
mustache.
yeah.
I'm talking like this.
yeah.
I can't watch Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Then Barry Levinson's Diner, which is a very good movie.
That's a really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, young Mickey Rourke, baby.
Mm-hmm.
This is the movie that taught me to put your dick in the bottom of the popcorn container.
Oh yeah,
And it works.
This is the
Holy
only
shit.
time in history it's
I
ever
forgot
worked.
that happened in this movie. Yeah.
It actually works.
And it did work. Yeah.
Like he gets with her because of it. Like it's not just that she touched it; it worked. It worked as a seduction technique.
Oh my God.
You had four guys. I guess they all went on to somewhat of a great career, but not like huge or anything, except for maybe Kevin Bacon. But you had Steve Guttenberg, who you could not watch an 80s movie without.
Right.
Yep.
Guttenberg was in everything.
He was the everyman.
He was. And Mickey Rourke was supposed to be the next, well, at the time, there was no Tom Cruise really, but somebody like a Tom Cruise that was supposed to have this unbelievable career because everybody loved Mickey Rourke back then. And of course, he went through a lot of just personal trials and everything that sort of ended that.
And a boxing career.
Well, he was.
He went through his own mental toughness drills.
Yeah, he did. He did. I frequently have heard him being referred to as beautiful by some
Oh, he
people.
was.
He was a beautiful man.
Yeah, man.
Sort of like Marlon Brando. Maybe Marlon Brando was a good comp on that, but. Rourke has obviously had a pretty decent career, but not nearly the one that everybody thought he was going to have. And then you have Bacon. Then you have Daniel Stern, who, character actor forever. He's probably got like 170 credits or something.
Oh, yeah.
And Paul Reiser, too, right?
Yeah, Paul Reiser was in this. And Tim Daly, who later have Wings fame.
Yeah. This is like, if you've heard me rave about Kicking and Screaming, the Noah Baumbach version. This was the 80s version of that. It's just literally a bunch of guys getting together and talking. And it's very dialogue driven. It's really fascinating. There's a lot of pop culture stuff in there. And it's really, I love movies like this.
Yeah. Then there's Domestic Disturbance.
Is this the only movie where Vince Vaughn is like clearly the bad guy?
Psycho.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I guess unless you're
Wedding Crashers.
He's not the bad guy in Wedding Crashers. He is a bad guy.
I could make an argument.
He's a bad guy in Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, yeah.
So he's probably done it a few times, but maybe not this like
he's evil
serious.
in this one.
Yeah. I've never seen Domestic Disturbance.
Oh, you're not missing anything.
No.
But I've always wanted to see this movie with the leads reversed.
Yeah.
Whereas, because it's Travolta, right? Where Travolta is the menacing asshat and Vince Vaughn is like the wholesome, like, husband guy. Because I think that's more out of character for Vince Vaughn. Because even though he's never really been a villain, he's always played rascals, right? He's always played, that ornery guy going to get you in trouble. Like, that's where he started with Swingers. He just kind of carried that through. Been nice to see him take the stand-up guy role once in a while.
If you've seen Lakeview Terrace, you've seen this movie.
Oh, I have seen Lakeview Terrace.
It's essentially the same thing. Like, Vince Vaughn's character is like a pillar of the society, and even though he can murder and do all kinds of crazy shit, nobody can do anything to him because they wouldn't believe that this guy would be so great.
He's like a Gus Fring.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, and it's like Travolta's the ex-husband who suspects him.
Right.
I'll tell you guys later what I just decided not to say.
Then we have Enemy of the State.
Hey, now this is a watchable shitty movie. I've talked about it before.
Yeah.
But man, when was the last time you saw it?
Right around when it came out.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, Jesus.
This is a movie that I would totally watch if it were just randomly on.
Oh, my God. I want you both to watch this more than... there's some great films out there that you haven't seen, and I would still prefer you watch Enemy of the State first because it's so much more fun than you remember. And it's preposterous, but if you just buy in to the government satellites that this movie portrays, which are probably real today, it's super fun, man. Everybody's just chewing it up. Jon Voight is like, I don't think he's been this much fun in ages because he's just eating up that villain shit.
Oh, nice.
Loving it.
Was this the beginning of weird Will Smith? Because I remember when this movie came out and this is where I believe I started hearing him start spout a lot of conspiracy theories, like in real life. And then it sort of blended into this Enemy of the State, which is all about that and everything.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe because, he and his wife have off and on numerous times been rumored to have ties to Scientology. His son tweets like he was raised by gerbils and not human parents.
What a strangely specific way to describe it.
But he
because it's like a chitter chatter of a gerbil, right?
But I mean, Jaden Smith probably believes every single conspiracy theory he's ever heard. That's the kind of guy he strikes me as. So maybe this is where this was all
I
born.
feel like this is where I started hearing him quite a bit, like start talking about a lot of stuff and like, well, yeah, I can see that, I guess, but I'm not going to believe that.
If only because of how much you love the conversation, you should eventually make your way back to this movie.
Yeah.
And Hackman in general, because he's tons of fun in this. And, there's a few twists and turns. I just like a good espionage thriller. It's not very good, but it's really fun.
I think this is a movie that's got a surprisingly high IMDb rating, though.
It might.
I think it might actually be in the 7s.
This is like Devlin?
It's in the 7s.
Is Devlin?
No, this is Tony Scott.
Tony Scott.
Yeah.
Okay, you say that, and now I can totally see all the Tony Scott zooms.
Yeah. Then there's Eraser. It's another movie I haven't seen since it came out. 1996. Yeah. Yeah.
This was peak parody of himself, Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vanessa L. Williams is in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, he kills it. Basically, the premise of Eraser is that there's some super gun that's been created that like melts buildings or some shit. I don't really remember. I saw it the one time, but he kills an alligator with it and goes, "Your luggage."
Yep.
And that's about all I remember from this movie. It's absurd and it was terrible. James Caan?
Yes.
James Caan.
Yes. This was the summer of '96 where this may have been my peak as a movie theater projectionist, just watching trailers over and over again, and Eraser and Mission Impossible and Twister, all these, Space Jam. Those were the trailers that I remember just running like on loop, it seemed like, in all the movies that we had. And yeah, I saw Eraser. Don't remember much about it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it was peak. He's not carrying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Really good kids movie, Explorers.
This movie is so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I haven't seen this in forever, but I love it.
Fucking Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, I love this. This is Maryland?
Yeah, they're in Maryland.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, man, they're super geniuses that invent like space travel, and it's crazy.
It's River Phoenix too, right?
Yeah,
you
River
already
Phoenix
just said that, didn't you?
River Phoenix is like the super genius, and Ethan Hawke is like having these dreams about circuitry and stuff like that. And they invent all this crazy technology. I really want to watch this movie again because I remember just being in love with it when I was a kid, because there's no limit to the possibilities. You can invent anything and you can go anywhere. Your parents don't have to know about it. They've got, a shack out. This is the type of movie that's not made anymore.
Yeah.
It almost stopped at Super 8, and Super 8 was and by that I mean not like inventors or anything like that, but kid-centric movies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that I don't know what it is. If you do make a movie like this nowadays, they've sort of missed there's no more wonder to it anymore, and I don't know why that is. If it could be just because now we're just used to the impossible happening on movies and stuff like that. Maybe it's that, I don't know. But if you go back into these movies in the 80s, like Explorers and The Last Starfighter, and just
Space Camp stuff like
that.
Yeah,
and it could just be our childhood too. We might be thinking way more about these movies, thinking more of these movies than somebody who's like 7 years old now might.
But I don't know.
But for them, it's just animated or Pixar or something like that. That's the main focus of the marketing towards kids. There's not a whole lot of this.
Something to be said for the rapid, exponentially advancing technology of the last 25, 30 years that I don't think was happening when we were 10 years old. Just because I don't think we stop and think about how fast maybe it's harder to instill wonder because so much more shit is possible in the real world.
Well, that's
now.
why you've got Stranger Things and It that has to go back to the 80s.
Yeah. It's just crazy how fast it goes. And yeah, maybe we're desensitized to wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. They've made, and I can't name all these movies that they've made. They've made movies that are kind of like this. It's just they're not marketed as. I mean, Explorers I don't think even did anything at the box office. I mean, who are we kidding? I mean, we look back fondly on it now, but who knows? It probably only made like $6 million or something. But it doesn't seem like there's that feeling. And you're right. I think that these type of movies and shows and everything have to go back to the 80s or whatever because there's so much technology now. It's like, oh, you built a spaceship? Fuck you. I've got 3 in my backyard.
Exactly.
But
you built a spaceship.
Then there is Hairspray. Now this is also the John Waters Hairspray. This is not the remake that came out.
So this is no Travolta.
Although I think the remake is also in Maryland.
Is it?
Too. Yeah.
Yeah. Have not seen this either.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. I don't remember if the original was a musical.
It was,
but they just.
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Ricky Lake was in that, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes, she
And
was.
then they just recently did one of those stunt live performances of it on Fox or NBC or something like that.
Yeah, they're burning that shit to the ground, aren't they?
I mean-
not Hairspray, but these stunt
Right,
live performance
exactly.
things.
They tend to be fine.
Well, they get a lot of ratings.
Yeah,
That-
I enjoyed the Grease one. Hairspray was fine.
I haven't watched any of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. It's just like going to see a play. If you go to see a play, they typically know their shit and hit their marks and know their lines and all that stuff. It's just filmed.
Mm-hmm. Then there's He's Just Not That Into You, which this is what really launched the just the ton of people in one movie,
Maybe.
in a romantic comedy thing.
Maybe.
Because then after that, it was, stuff like Valentine's Day and Mother's Day.
All the days, yeah.
All the days, yeah.
Arbor Day.
Yeah, exactly. But this has how many people in it? Jennifer Goodwin, Jennifer Aniston, Jennifer Connelly, all the Jennifers.
Oh, all the Jennifers.
Morgan Lilly. Let's see, that's not somebody we know.
Bradley Cooper, Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper, Scarlett Johansson.
You could literally say any name in this list and I would believe you
Yeah.
because I have never seen this film and I will never watch
Kevin
it.
Connolly, Justin Long, Ben Affleck,
Oh, I forgot Affleck was in this.
Busy Phillips, Drew Barrymore.
Oh, yeah, Drew Barrymore's the best friend. That I think it says the roll credits line.
Yeah, I mean, it's and this was all based on a self-help book that had no plot. It was a advice book, and they turned it into a romantic comedy.
Yes, they did.
And it's not very good.
There's got to be a market for this because they keep making it and they probably make it for cheap, which is weird because
I think everybody agrees to work for scale or
they're
maybe
in it for 12 seconds.
Yeah, or they under the table it somewhere
Right.
where it's like, just pay me $1 million.
Yeah.
And then, whatever. But I think they mostly just work for scale. And yeah, you're right. They probably because they're only in it for a certain amount of time. They don't get to demand a whole bunch for it, but they love being in it for whatever reason.
Yeah. Whatever.
But not very good. But
So you're saying it's not like a Robert Downey Jr. situation? Did
Did
you see that article a couple weeks ago about how much money he made for Spider-Man Homecoming?
No.
Because it was like, I think it was $10 million.
No,
Really?
really.
And like the article said his screen time was like 8 minutes and some.
Mm-hmm.
That's about right, yeah.
Well, that's like Brando.
Yeah, it's almost, well, adjusted for inflation, it's probably the exact same, but it definitely seems worse than the Brando and Superman thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Then there's Home for the Holidays. That's another one on the long line of family gets together at Thanksgiving movies.
Why do they keep making these?
No. This is different. This is better. This is much better.
I've seen this movie.
Yeah.
I had a Claire Danes thing. You forget.
Did you like it?
I liked it.
This was Jodie Foster directing.
Jodie
right?
Foster directing and Holly
Holly
Hunter
Hunter,
was
yeah.
the main person.
But aren't there about 100 of these Thanksgiving or Christmas family meal movies?
Yes, but they're worse than this.
This
Well,
may have
that's
actually
okay.
kicked it off because it seemed like there were this one came out in 95?
Yeah.
I think the ton of them started kind of like a Family Stone.
Yeah.
Just a million of these. Like everybody comes to, and everybody hates each other,
Right.
and they've all have their
We
issues.
fight, we laugh, we make up, we eat turkey.
Someone always comes in and says they're way better than somebody, and then you find out that they've got demons.
Yeah, somebody's unexpectedly pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. There's always that, and it was that Tina Fey. Jason Bateman.
Yeah. I love
movie.
that one.
That
though.
movie's good. I can't remember what that was called.
Well, it's got a generic title like Only the Brave.
I will give you $100 if it's actually Only the Brave.
It's not. It's like I think the word "just" is in it though.
Let me look it up real quick because
Just the way you are.
I hate letting things go like
He's
that.
just that into you.
Yes. This is where I leave you.
This is where I leave you. Terrible
Oh, yeah.
title.
Yeah.
Is it a good movie?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
No, it's decent.
It's not any better or worse than any of these other movies I'm making fun of, though. I think you may put a little too much stock in Home for the Holidays quality. I saw one the other day. Can't tell you the name of it. John Goodman and Diane Keaton were in it. They were the matriarch and patriarch, and the family was all getting together for the holidays. And I was like, skip.
So that wasn't a Family Stone. So Diane Keaton's been in several of these.
maybe. It
Well,
was
and
a
then
fam-
Something's Got to Give is kind of like that, where everybody kind of converges on one place.
It's the Family Stone. Is it Love the Coopers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only the Brave. Love the Coopers.
And then, what did you wanted to say? Did you have anything to say about Home for the Holidays?
No, it's a little more subversive. There's a little more like acrimony, like actual believable stuff.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth a watch. Holly Hunter is always good to see.
You're right. You're right about the Claire Danes thing, because this was around the time that she was just, I don't know, she was at her.
Oh, she was fantastic.
Yeah, she was.
She plays the Emma Roberts role in Valentine's Day, where she's like, "I'm going to have sex with my boyfriend at third period today." Claire Danes in Family and Home for the Holidays is like, "I'm going to have sex with my boyfriend tonight," or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I might need to rewatch this movie.
Yeah.
Then there is Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
Well,
Everything.
I guess
this
they
is the
drive
fourth
through
Die
Maryland.
Hard.
I think of that as more of a DC movie, but
Well, everything after the Warlock scene, the Kevin Smith scene, is in Maryland, where they trace him down to that warehouse.
what a regrettable, terrible, awful movie.
I think this is the best of the latter day Die Hards, though. Have there been three
There's
more?
only been two.
There's only been
I don't know.
two.
I think This Morning's was the best of all the poops I've taken this week.
Yeah, it's certainly better than Good Day to Die Hard.
Yeah.
I remember when this came out, and I hated it immediately. This was where they turned John McClane into a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that for some reason that he was in the other three, I would beg you to look at those again and tell me, even though there's a little bit of luck involved, that a human could actually do the things that he does in this.
Right.
In Live Free or Die Hard, oh my God, how many times does he cheat death in this? And this is another thing that I like to talk about with the Fast and Furious movies and everything. I can sort of go along with you that you can survive all this shit for one movie.
Yeah.
But then when you get into the like 5, 6, 7 chapters and you're surviving 10 things that should kill you every single time, that adds up to me. I'm keeping a tally, motherfucker.
You know how they say that the common joke is that eventually the Fast and Furious series is going to go to space?
Yeah.
I had a realization the other day. They are. And when they get there, they're going to be teaming up with the dinosaurs from the Jurassic movies.
Oh yeah, probably.
Because those are the two Universal properties that have both gone off the deep end.
Yep.
Like jump the shark in my book. And so it just feels natural they'll slide them together. Dominic Toretto will be punching a T-Rex in the mouth.
You can see that slow motion shot right now.
I can. I can see it.
It's a shame though that because Live Free or Die Hard has Timothy Olyphant as the bad guy, and he's so good.
He is.
I love
He's
me some
great.
Timothy
He's great in
Olyphant.
everything.
Yeah.
I've never not liked him.
Then there's Patriot Games.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh, because I guess he lives in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is might be the first movie Sean Bean dies in.
Oh, it could be.
Because it's one of the first movies that Sean Bean is in that we know him from. Or like, I think he was
He was in Gold. No, this was before Goldeneye. Yeah.
this is before Goldeneye. And he's the angry Irish IRA whatever guy that Harrison Ford pisses off. And then this guy's like, forget my politics and everything I've sacrificed my whole life for. I'm going to kill that motherfucker.
Yeah. Do you guys love this movie?
No.
Man, I've only seen it once. I've seen Clear and Present Danger like 15 times.
It seems like this is a movie that we should have watched like a million times because we love Hunt for Red October.
Mm-hmm.
I like Clear and Present Danger too. It's Jack Ryan. We're all kind of on board with that character.
But it was,
and people love this movie.
it was such an odd switch.
Yeah.
It was only 2 years that Alec Baldwin had done Hunt for Red October, and then suddenly there's a much older Harrison Ford
Right.
playing the character. I think it made more sense in Clear and Present Danger, right? Because isn't that one of the ones where it's later on in the Jack Ryan? Like Patriot Games, I don't think.
Like, if you actually care, and again, the books don't matter, but if you care about the arc, then yeah, Patriot Games is taking place earlier in Jack Ryan's life than Clear and Present Danger by at least 10 or 15 years, if not more. It's taking place early in his career. It's one of the first events. I think the book might even come before Hunt for Red October in the Jack Ryan timeline.
Yeah, that is just weird.
It was a hard sell. I mean, and I was only 15 when this came out.
Yeah.
But it was a hard sell that Alec Baldwin then becomes Harrison Ford 2 years later.
Right.
Even if you don't care about timelines,
Right.
it just didn't make sense. Of course, now we've got how many Jack Ryan? Ben Affleck's been Jack Ryan, Chris Pine has been Jack Ryan, and now
Ben
John
Affleck play?
Krasinski.
Some of all fears.
Oh, shit!
Yeah, Sum of All
I
Fears.
completely wiped that from my memory. What do you think of this Krasinski thing? Have you seen the trailer?
I haven't seen the trailer.
I saw a headline about it, and I was like, "Oh, season 2 is coming," and I was like, "No, it's not." I read deeper. They've just been promoting this show for 2 years. They've never released season 1. It's not season 2 of that show. We're just still waiting on season 1, and they showed a trailer like I think 2 years ago. I saw a trailer.
Really?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
So you think he maybe has some? They want to do it now because of the Quiet Place and everything.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe the production just took that long, but I want this to be good. Like I can buy John Krasinski. Especially if they set it when I think they are, as he's sort of in the middle of his transition from analyst to field agent or operative. I know a little too much about Jack Ryan.
No, yeah.
I was a big Tom Clancy nerd for a while.
It's awesome.
Anyway, I hope it's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. and like I said, I probably only saw Patriot Games the one time. I've seen all the others 100 times. I mean, like I've even seen Sum of All Fears like twice. Right. You know, the Patriot Games is the one that just gets lost for me. Then we have another John Waters Pecker that you were talking about.
Yeah, this
another John Waters Pecker.
This is I liked this movie. This was
Eddie Furlong.
Yeah, it's Edward Furlong, and then Christina Ricci is playing
about her. Yeah,
his girlfriend, and I was still in my Christina Ricci phase at this point, and it's definitely his most mainstream attempt. And it's Edward Furlong is like this photographer that from Baltimore, outside of Baltimore, that gets super famous, and you know the town that was once supporting him and really encouraging him to do this feels alienated by his success and everything. And it's good. It's like a nice little late 90s romantic comedy slice of life thing, and it's got Christina Ricci, and I love her.
Yeah,
so,
that's good enough for me.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad you've seen all these John Waters movies, or else it would have been a nothing but like, we haven't seen that shit.
It's weird how many I've seen, actually, because I don't really like him. I don't like Pink Flamingos at all.
Well, I was about to say, speaking of, I haven't seen that shit, Pink Flamingo.
Yeah.
Which is known for one main scene, but it could be, is this the most recognizable John Waters movie? Like, do most people down the street, if you said Pink Flamingos, would immediately recall John Waters on this?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. Because, it's the one where he goes to his John Waters Z and Lynxiest. What the fuck did I just say? He definitely goes to the extremes in this. The main character is Divine, this performance artist that's known for like outlandish acts and outlandish appearance and things like that. And the movie's just gross, and it's gross because he wants it to be gross, and I think he wants to show a side of popular culture.
Would this movie be considered tame today?
No, it's still fucked up.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's still fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it like recently, but
I'm not going to watch it.
Still fucked up.
Yeah, I mean,
you anti-sold me on it.
Then there's The Replacements.
You not like that movie at all?
No.
Oh, wait.
This
Keanu Reeves?
Keanu.
Canoe and Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman.
Oh, Gene.
This is either loosely based or is directly based on the 1987 NFL strike.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Redskins.
Yes.
But I don't know if they don't
it's the
use
Washington Sentinels.
Yeah,
yes.
in this it's and they because I think the 87 Redskins ended up being quarterbacked by Doug Williams, right?
I think so.
Yeah, but in this one it's like some other just random white dude.
Yeah, it's Johnny Utah.
Yeah, well, no,
Falco, I mean, Shane Falco.
Yeah.
That was the other quarterback that he played.
All right,
Shane Falco.
But I mean, no, there's another veteran guy who's on strike during this, who's threatening to take his job if they ever get off of strike or whatever.
Yeah.
Just watch Necessary Roughness and forget this shit.
Really?
Man.
I mean, you guys see no merit in this? It's just funny. It's
actually
just fun.
The only thing I remember is going to make me sound like a perv, but I remember the love interest girl being hot enough that
Brooke Langton.
I had to look up who she was.
Oh, she is amazingly beautiful. And then they had the
She's
stripper.
in Swingers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They had the stripper
Hi,
cheerleaders.
this is
and
Nikki. Love me some Brooke Langton, man.
Yep.
She was in Friday Night Lights for an arc too.
Really?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't big on this. This is also maybe personally affected me in some way. This is one of the few movies that I built with a bad splice in it, and it went out of frame.
Oh,
And why do I remember that? I don't know.
Because it happened so rarely.
Yeah. So I think it happened during, like, it was a sneak preview we had of it. And so you had to build it that day.
And I mean, I used to brag about how good I was at building movies without mistakes in them. Because I think I built maybe 2 movies over my career where I had a bad splice. But I'm not bragging. It's just that if you pay attention, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's actually, I mean, you have to be distracted almost by something unexpected to put a bad splice, or you're just not paying attention.
Yeah, every once in a while a movie would come in, and this was one of them because the reel change in question had a jib shot where the camera is coming down, and so like there's no, like, you can't see where, like, most frames you can see the image that's just still,
right.
And it's like, oh, okay, well then I definitely cut right here, and there was no line or anything, or if the line is there, it's very hidden. So as this is moving down, it's moving down along a wall, so the wall looks like the line. And so, like, it's doing this type of thing, and, you know, I cut it on the wall instead of cut it above it. And then, I don't remember. I think it went through. I think I was there because I wasn't sure about it, and I was just there watching it when the reel changed and just, you know, flipped it back up. And I was like, God damn it. But, like, yeah, every once in a while, a filmmaker will throw you a curveball, like Quentin Tarantino on Kill Bill. Put one of his chapter breaks at the beginning of a reel where it's just black, and then it's like the title, and the title wasn't centered. So, like, people who were not me built the movie, and, like, though it kept going out of frame for that first day because I wasn't there or whatever. And then the next day I came in and I had to sit there and just look at it. It's so hard to find them once you've built them.
I feel like there was one of the Star Wars prequels that came to Hollywood with a special note. There was, at least, this definitely happened. I think it was a Star Wars movie where they said, like, Reel 5 ends on black.
Yeah.
And so you need to be extra careful making this splice because of that. I remember getting a warning in the can with one movie.
And sometimes they're real helpful. They'll give you, they would give you, like, it is 8 frames or 32 sprocket holes from this spot on the header or footer or whatever. And oh, that's really helpful. But, man, that fucking Kill Bill, they said, fuck you, man. Then there's a Runaway Bride.
We don't need to talk about that. Just watch My Best Friend's
They tried
Wedding.
to recreate magic with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts some 10 years after Pretty Woman, and it just didn't work.
Yep.
Saved. Good movie. Saved.
Oh, yeah. Excellent movie.
Did you like this one?
Well, you have to, depends on what part of my life I watched it.
Guys, watch Saved and watch Teeth back to back.
Oh, that'll fuck you up.
Because this is about the same deal.
Essentially.
It's about kids, Christian kids trying to save themselves from marriage and making promises and all that. Teeth is obviously way more vicious, like, as far as violence is concerned, but Saved is more vicious, I think, dialogue wise.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
And everything. And there's a really good crew of actors in here, man. Like, this is the first time I saw Mandy Moore as an actress, I think. Like, before this is like, you're just doing that thing that all the pop stars are doing. You're trying to get in movies and, you know, trying to do that double threat thing.
Yeah.
But this was a really good role for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Eva Amuri, who's Susan Sarandon's daughter, is in this.
Macaulay's in this.
Macaulay Culkin's in this.
In a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I
And
haven't
he
seen
is
it in a while.
biting and sarcastic. And so, yeah, seriously, between The Good Son and Home Alone 2 and this, I don't remember seeing him in anything except for Michael Jackson videos.
I always felt like a pairing. That's so interesting that you paired this with Teeth, because you're totally right. But I pair it with Donnie Darko.
That makes sense. We had Jenna Malone connection.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that may be it. The school uniform on Jenna Malone.
Yeah.
But I also feel like the town in Donnie Darko is that sort of oppressive, too strict and conservative kind of thing with these kids. Because there's that whole Patrick Swayze thing in Donnie Darko.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, other people are Patrick Fugit from Almost Famous. Heather Matarazzo's in this.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
From Hostel 2.
Yeah, from
The Devil's
Hostel
Advocate.
2's Heather Matarazzo. But yeah, this is really good. I think this is how satire should be.
Yep.
And it's just very well done. Another recommend, I would say.
Speaking of Hostel 2, her character gets the rawest deal in that movie of everyone.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah, for sure.
It's disturbing as fuck. Eli Roth, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Best Picture winner, The Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Oh.
Obviously, Baltimore docks and
That's
everything factor prominently in this. I don't know if any of the other part of the movie does, really. Though.
I mean, it's the downtown area.
But it is.
and
I mean, the
they're
movie's set in
Right.
Maryland.
Yeah.
I was making sure I didn't say anything.
No,
'cause it's
I
all-
was about to toss out another movie that I think alphabetically you just haven't gotten to yet.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I'm going to hold it and wait.
Oh, okay.
Michael Shannon is one of the most terrifying villains I've ever seen in this movie.
Yeah, and he's terrifying in just about every movie.
I mean, they
that
just
he's
they
the
just
villain.
tapped into like his innate ability to.
I saw a movie
go
where he was
full
a
villain.
good guy and I couldn't buy it.
Do you remember that thing that happened a few years ago where there was a sorority that the head of the sorority got pissed off at her fellow, like, I don't know what
she
her
sent out that
pledges or
email?
whatever, and sent out an email and said for those of you looking for a nice thing here, whatever, prepare for a wild fucking ride.
Yeah.
All this other stuff. Well, they got Michael Shannon to read this.
Oh, that's right.
and it's just straight Michael Shannon. He's like, be prepared for a wild fucking ride. and straight Michael Shannon can make things so funny. Intense actor Michael Shannon
he is.
is. But so Shape of Water is good. I didn't think it was Best Picture or anything.
I didn't either.
But
I liked
just,
it better the second time I saw it.
It was just Guillermo del Toro's time. But I like this movie.
Yeah, me too.
Then there's Shattered Glass.
Yeah.
Oh, this is some good shit.
It really is.
This is the shit you need to watch if you're the one on Twitter making jokes about how bad Hayden Christensen is at acting.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great people in this.
Yeah.
There's a Sarsgaard or a Skarsgård in here.
it's Peter Sarsgaard.
There's a 70.
In fact, there is a 70. There is a Chloe 70 in this. But Peter Sarsgaard, this might be his best performance.
It's
I
great.
think.
Yeah.
He almost steals it from Christensen.
Yeah,
Almost.
almost. Hayden Christensen plays this writer who is it Stephen Glass?
Yeah.
Stephen Glass?
This is a true story.
This
by
was
the way.
based on a true story, and it's about he kept writing stuff that would get on the cover, and like everybody loved these stories and everything, and then I think it's Sarsgaard is the one who gets a tip from somebody.
It's actually Steve Zahn and Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
Just when you think this movie has thrown all the great actors at you, and I don't even think this was a theatrical release. I think this was like
it
an
was.
HBO.
I saw it,
Okay,
yeah.
I thought it was like an HBO movie or something.
Yeah.
It's and I think they work for Forbes. And
Yeah.
basically, they publish a story about tech, a tech conference where there's this hacker kid, some hacker conference, and the way Stephen Glass wrote was just very colorful. Some people are just really good at prose. And so Steve Zahn starts to dig a little bit. And at one point he goes to his boss and he's like, this thing is a sieve. And Rosario Dawson's like begging for a byline credit because they're going to write a story that debunks all this. And they go back and forth with Sarsgaard on the phone and they keep trying to get Glass to give them his sources of information. He gives them a phone number. They call and get
It's always fake.
answering machine.
Right.
It gives them a website and it looks like it was built with, and I don't know what was the early days of websites.
Yeah, like it has those
Angel
like
Fire.
it has that like Homer Simpson made a web page type of look to it.
And so, I don't think it spoils the movie at all. I actually think it helps you enjoy the movie more to know that turns out Glass was making most of this shit up.
Yeah.
Just whole cloth fabrications. And it probably began innocently enough where he just embellished a detail on a story that was true.
Mm-hmm.
And it got him the attention, the cover, the praise. The movie keeps cutting back. I've seen this a lot, by the way. I've seen this like 7 or 8 times. Keeps cutting between the linear action of him being discovered and him talking to a high school class of writers about what it's like to be a good writer and how, and the juxtaposition there helps you understand why he ultimately did what he did. He was loving that attention. But yeah, Sarsgaard almost steals the movie as he slowly comes to the realization.
Man, he's really good. Like going back to Christensen, you've met guys like this before.
Yeah.
You've talked to people like this who have an answer for everything.
Yeah.
Who never admit they're wrong. Who you point out the inconsistencies in their story, and they always have some other little pathway to go down.
Right.
Say it to you with a straight face. They almost believe it themselves, I think. He's so good at that. Sarsgaard, I think, is probably the best actor in this, though. I love his whole, like, there's a scene where he goes into a room with all their covers, and he goes in, he starts reading all the articles, and then he just starts realizing all these stories are bullshit and everything. And there's still some people in the office who don't believe it.
Yeah.
And the scene between Sarsgaard and Seveny is so great because he's like, he falsified his research. You know, and it's like, you're like, oh shit, like this is the end of Glass right here and everything. Very good movie.
Yeah,
Very
and
good.
he's like offended from a morals. This is what I love about this movie, is that there are so many characters that actually have journalistic integrity. Like he's embarrassed to be affiliated with this magazine that will now be dragged through the mud for having published this bullshit. And Glass, once he finally realizes, because he tries until the very, very last moment to come up with some kind of spin, and then he threatens to kill himself.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I always felt like the movie was saying, this is the ultimate attention-seeking behavior, is that this is what's always driven him. And now he has the only way he can get any attention from this guy at all right now is to make that kind of a threat.
Right.
And he doesn't fall for it. He's even like, I'll call you a cab. I am not going anywhere with you right now. And you need to, anyway, it's really, really good. I recommend it. 2 thumbs up and even my dick.
Yeah. You might as well.
I don't know why I did that.
I don't either. You're just looking for a way to be dirty, and you did it. Congratulations. Then comes the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I did see this movie because it came out in 2005.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This blurs in with the Yaya Sisterhood, and I can't keep all the sisterhoods apart.
This is all A actresses, right? Like Alexis Bledel.
You have Alexis Bledel, you have Amber Tamlin, America Ferrera, who I think at the time was she in that
Ugly Betty.
Ugly Betty show at the time?
I think so.
And then it sort of introduced us to Blake Lively, who this is the reason why I watched the movie. I'm not made of stone. You show me a Blake Lively, I'm gonna go watch that movie. But don't remember anything about it. Isn't it like everybody has a turn with the pants?
Yep. It's like the Stanley Cup of pants.
Yeah.
And they made a second one, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
I think I saw that shit too.
Jesus.
Everybody gets a day with the pants.
Yes. Then there is this is funny how Barrett wrote this down. Step up, ha ha ha, and step up to the streets, ha 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 ha. I believe, if I recall, they're at there's some Baltimore dance school, some prestigious. There's a real one, isn't there? There's a real
Probably.
There's a real prestigious. Like they probably even went to this and Saved the Last Dance or something like
Probably.
that.
Probably.
Although Save the Last Dance doesn't show up here,
That's
so
in
maybe
Chicago.
Yeah, it's in Chicago.
Yeah.
But yeah, Step Up.
That was Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum. That was sort of the introduction of Channing Tatum to the world.
And he can dance.
He can
You
dance like a
if you
motherfucker.
wanna.
I
You can leave those.
and he met his once and future wife on this set too. Either
Once
this,
and
what's her name?
soon to be not
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Once and
Jenna Dewan. Jenna Dwayne.
Yeah, Jenna Dewan. What do we think about these movies?
They made
cotton
like 9
candy,
of them.
right? Yeah, they're
So
cotton candy type movies.
Somebody's watching them.
Well, the funny thing is that Step Up to the Streets, it sounds like it should be like Step Up : to the streets.
Right.
It's Step Up to
The
streets.
streets.
The streets.
Yeah. That's right.
Wrong. Why'd they do that?
I don't know. I think they wanted to have that sort of weird, like, Step Up to the Streets, but they, like, yeah, for some reason, they just couldn't, they had to have the two there. They had to.
That's like the chili with con carne.
Yeah. I remember back in the old days writing reviews, and Step Up was one of them, where I trashed the movie and everything, and rarely got comments on that old site that we used to write on from outside. It was like a blog.
Yeah.
But somebody randomly came on there one time and said, he's like, F you don't like this movie because you can't dance like that.
Yeah,
You're right. I wrote back, you're right. Because I can't dance as good as Channing Tatum. That's why this movie sucks. When you're right, you're right.
That's right.
What can you do?
There's no comeback for that. If do right, no can defense.
That's right. The Sum of All Fears is on here.
That's the one I almost brought up a second ago. This is Ben Affleck playing Jack Bauer.
Jack Bauer. That's right. Let's go with that. Hopefully no one will correct us.
One of the greatest problems, I think, with the way Hollywood has treated the Jack Ryan character or property is that they are motivated by studio decisions, right? So they want to get a younger star that can be in more films, or they want to get Harrison Ford to lend all this star power credence and box office draw. And they keep fucking up the actual timeline of Jack Ryan's life. So Some of All Fears in the book takes place when he's the age that Harrison Ford's playing him in Clear and Present Danger.
Oh, really?
And he's the designated survivor, and Japan crashes a goddamn plane into the Capitol building and kills everyone. And he becomes president. And so Some of All Fears, the movie, they're like, well, we want to make him younger. We want to do Ben Affleck, but we're going to take this event from his older life and shoehorn it into his life when he's just an analyst. And so we get a lot of the same beats we had in Hunt for Red October, where Morgan Freeman, who's James Earl Jones' stand-in in this film, playing an amalgamation of characters that aren't really in the book, brings Jack Ryan to this briefing, and then surprisingly, he's the one giving it or has all the information. And I actually really like this movie as much as I'm kind of ragging on it. But yeah, the big nuke scene.
They nuke Baltimore, right?
They nuke Baltimore. Well, it's played kind of like a dirty bomb.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not an actual nuke.
It is a nuke in the sense that one got found and stolen, and because he sends Liev Schreiber off on this mission to find the missing Russian scientists, and that's when they discover there's a nuke they were working on.
But
and
doesn't Bridget Moynihan's character survive this blast when she's in the hospital?
Yes, it can't be a nuke in the sense that it goes off and there's definitely a zone where there's radiation, but some places like the hospital, the windows
it's a movie nuke.
Their windows get broken, but they're still able to help patients.
They get blown in the back of the walls.
Yes,
and
this is another one of these movies where the male lead's girlfriend is a nurse at a hospital during a disaster. But the way they play that nuke scene, I thought was really, really well done, especially when it was coming on the heels of 9/11. And so they were trying to treat everything sensitively and not exploit. And so they don't really show you the mushroom cloud the way you would expect them to. They just there's this moment where and you see a shockwave.
Well,
and
yeah, all you do is
see
them in that hospital, and there's not been an explosion yet. And it's just it comes out of nowhere. Like the way they shoot it, it kind of telegraphs it, but it's a really effective way of showing.
Yeah. I would have watched more movies with Affleck playing this character.
He's all right in this, right?
He's fine in this.
Yeah.
If there are problems with this movie, it's not him. It's not Morgan Freeman. It's not Liev Schreiber. It's actually not the acting at all. It's just that we're hitting a lot of the same beats we've already hit with Jack Ryan, and we're only doing that because you younged him down so you could put Affleck in there.
Anyway. And it had been since Clear and Present Danger, since we've revisited this character.
But they could have kept Harrison Ford. Now, granted, they might not have been able to afford him or get his interest, but they could have kept him and had him play the older Jack Ryan, designated survivor-y, because basically what happens through the course of the books is he goes from analyst to field op. From field op, he gets in tight with the NSA head because they came up together. Then he becomes the head of the NSA and the security advisor to the president.
I think what you're trying to say here is that it's hard to care about this character because we're not seeing him grow any over all these movies. He's always going back a couple of steps or forward a couple of steps, or you don't really get the sense of who Jack Ryan is over a course of a bunch of movies, especially with 3 different actors of varying age.
Yeah, and I think that what people liked about it when it was just a series of books was following that character through that growth and seeing him on every single level, basically, from beat cop all the way up. Anyway, yeah, we're never going to get that. But if this Krasinski show is great, maybe we'll get some of that growth.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of it was growth from what happened 30 years ago to what's happening. We're not going to get 30-year growth out of it. Anyway, so I'm rambling off. Some of All Fears is enjoyable.
I know this is one of Barrett's favorites, Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, I love Wedding Crashers. I still don't understand how Owen Wilson's character knows so much about Secretary Cleary at that wedding. When he goes up to Christopher Walken, who's the Secretary of Defense, or I don't know, something like that, Commerce Secretary. And he's like, he meets him. He's like, man, I read your treatise on this and that and that. And he's like, well, what did you think? And he's like, well, your contention that this, and then I saw you do this. I don't think he does this much research for all of the weddings that he goes to. And so the reason that he gets invited into this whole family is that, and I don't really understand it. Anyway, I watched that for the 60th time the other day, and that
it's funny. I love Wedding Crashers, but I've only seen it like twice.
It's so great. It's my absolute happy place. There's a section there after he gets dumped. Owen Wilson gets dumped, and he goes into this depression and all that stuff, and he goes crashing by himself. That's just horribly depressing. But then he goes.
Isn't that the one where he's like, there's that parade of women he keeps like having sex with?
That's at the beginning.
That's at the beginning.
Yeah, because they're just like throwing them on the bed and all that stuff. But then once he meets Will Ferrell's character, like the movie just gets a jolt right back again. And it's great, man. I mean, Isla Fisher, Rachel McAdams, Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, Bradley Cooper, Christopher Walken, Jane Seymour. Like, I mean, this has got a fucking punchy cast right here.
Who made this film?
It was David Dobkin.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Who he and Vince Vaughn are tight because they've done several things together. I think Clay Pigeons was the first one they did.
Oh, yeah.
And then that Maroon 5 video that came out a year or two ago where it's all the plush animals and shit, and everybody's walking around in the costumes or furries or whatever. Vince Vaughn shows up at the end of that, and David Dobkin did that video.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
So yeah, I think they have sort of a working relationship that they like.
It's good, man. I love this movie a lot.
Then there's the X-Files.
Yeah, the X-Files is...
Now, are we talking about the series or everything?
This is the first movie.
The first movie.
Yes.
All right. So this is the oily. This is the beginning of oil being evil, like evil alien oil.
Yes.
Like we see this in a ton of movies now. It seems like, but you have Lucas Black as this is right after Sling Blade, I believe, that he was in this. He goes down into some sort of hole in the ground, and this like black oily stuff gets on him. And that sets the plot.
And there's bees, right?
I think there is bees.
I really like this movie. Now, I loved the X-Files, so I was like fucking hyped for this movie.
Man, X-Files, the series, almost felt like Lost did to me because I enjoyed watching it. And then it just never could decide what it wanted to be. Like, it never decided what the overall story's answer was.
Yeah.
Like if they had just gone with one direction, it would have been fine. And then it's like, okay, there's fucking aliens. Yeah, the aliens kidnapped Fox's kid or Fox's brother or whatever when he was younger. Yeah, that happened. Was that what?
It was a sister.
Yeah. All that happened.
This is
there's a conspiracy to hide it.
Right.
And then just say that and go on.
Yeah, if they had done what Lost did, and obviously Lost didn't do it perfectly, but set an end date for this series, Breaking Bad did it, all that stuff, then it really would have benefited the legacy because you started getting all this real world stuff, contract disputes, and David Duchovny wanting a movie career, and then Robert Patrick coming in, and then have Duchovny coming back for the last episode when everybody had checked out. If you put a hard stop on this right around the movie or a couple years afterwards, you've got a story, you've got a narrative that you can stick to. But you're absolutely right. It meandered all over the place.
And, I know there's probably some X-Files fans out there who are like, they did explain it. They did. Well,
if anything, they over-explained shit.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, it's... I just never felt like they had the satisfactory explanation in their head the entire time. They kept adding things to it that was... I don't know. You're right. I think that's one of those things. That series lasted until 2001, 2002, and I remember those last seasons going, oh, okay, they're going to we're going to figure out what cigarette smoking man's deal is and all that. And fucking kill his ass on a mountain, and and just a lot of the different things. Like, you never really got satisfactory answers to a lot of things. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. They may have explained all the individual plot threads, but they were at that point there were too many. There was no central narrative that could sustain it, and you can have those pocket
I think that's what
episodes.
I'm trying to get at. Like, there was explanation, but it just none of it tied together whatsoever.
Right.
There's some honorable mentions here. Of course, we talked a little bit about The Wire right off at the beginning.
Well, The Wire definitely takes place in Baltimore.
Yes, it does.
It's definitely fantastic. And I would highly encourage everyone, including Barrett, to watch it.
I will. It just takes me. Everybody has those like shameful gaps in their resume of series, great series that they haven't.
You notice how quiet I was during all that X-Files talk, right?
Did you watch the X-Files?
I watched it, but I didn't.
Interesting.
I didn't catch the wave. In fact, I actually got turned off because of all the underlying mystery. The episodes that I enjoyed were the one-offs. So I watched it. I watched plenty of it. I've seen the movies, but I definitely didn't watch all of it. I definitely gave up before you did. And that's I guess people would consider that a gap in my resume.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I've whiffed on The Wire. I know I need to watch it. I know it's probably going to be fantastic, but it'll just take the right time.
Well, I had an interesting sort of experience with The Wire because I did not see the first season when it came out. And then the second season came on, and this is when Jeremy started telling me about it. And I believe we used to have a ritual every Sunday to go watch this. And I was watching the second season of it and not knowing anything about the first season. And then after I watched the second season, I really enjoyed it, but I missed the next season after that. And then I think I may have seen the fourth season and then the fifth season. So I missed the third season, which is the third season, the school. School?
Season 4 is the school.
Okay, what's the third one?
The third one is the one that's hard to nail down, but it's the Carcetti focused. It's the politics focused one.
Oh, okay. So I saw season 2 and 3 and then missed 4. And everybody was telling me how great 4 was, and while it was going on, never got a chance to see it. Then I saw the season 5 and saw all that. And then people were like, you got to watch. So I didn't have season 1 or 4. And I think at one point I just decided to this is a show made for binging.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so complex that when you watch week to week, you forget about certain things that were going on early on in the season. The little seeds that they plant and everything, you forget about those. And if you watch it straight through and everything, it's like, oh, okay, all this makes sense now. Even the season 2, which I loved, I was like, oh, yeah,
well,
okay.
I think I used to sell this show to people by telling them the first season takes a while to get into. And I don't know that that's right. I just think it took me a while to get into because there's so many goddamn characters. So many cops and drug dealers and criminals, all the way from the hoods and drug dealers and druggies. And I couldn't tell them apart. And Method Man's in this? Okay, I forgot about that. That kind of thing. I don't know if Method Man is in it. God damn, it's Method Man. I'm almost positive. Anyway, my point is there are so many characters that it's easier when you're binging to wrap your head around all those characters and how they play off of each other than it is when you're watching week to week and you're like, which guy is that again?
Yeah.
Which guy is that again?
Yeah.
Who got shot last week? So,
and a lot like Game of Thrones would introduce characters who were awesome and then they would just get killed.
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those shows that it's very much like Game of Thrones where you're like, well, now they're going to focus on this guy. He's new. I don't like him as much. I want to focus on this other guy, but their new characters are all awesome. So.
All right. It's gonna happen.
Some others worth mentioning. Another Happy Day. I've never seen that movie. I saw Avalon when I was a kid. I don't know why, but I did. It's a really dense drama or like period drama.
John Goodman? Never mind. That's always. That's always.
Yeah.
Not the same
there
movie.
are some name actors in Avalon, but I just can't remember them right now. Gods and Generals, which is the sequel to Gettysburg. They're both 4 hours long movies. I don't think I saw Gettysburg, but I did see Gods and Generals.
Man, I was a big Civil War buff and Revolutionary War buff. I saw them both, but they're hard to get through, even for a guy like me who eats that shit up. It's just like they had no edit. No edit button. There's no reason either one of those things needs to be 4 hours long.
Yeah, I had to watch because Gods and Generals was so long. I think I had to watch it in pieces. I watched the first half of it, and then I had the other half of it, and I spliced it together after that. There was a movie that came out the same night. I think it was Old School came out the same day.
Oh wow.
As that, and I chose to watch Gods and Generals instead of Old School.
You chose poorly.
I did. He said, she said. That's the Kevin Bacon movie.
Yeah,
right?
Kevin Bacon.
I don't think I ever saw that.
I just remember the trailers running constantly when I was watching, I don't know, network TV or something like that. He said, she said.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon.
Is it Ali Sheedy?
Ali Sheedy, she's having a baby?
It's Elizabeth Perkins.
Elizabeth Perkins.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Perkins had a second there, like in 87, 88, with Big and this and like.
And the Flintstones.
Yeah, definitely.
Was she Betty in the
She
Flintstones?
was Wilma.
Wilma.
Yeah, because Rosie O'Donnell was Betty.
Yeah, that's right.
And John Goodman is definitely in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Rick Moranis, too, right?
Moranis.
Yeah.
That's the
why
movie that ended his
career.
career.
Ended Rick Moranis' career. That was his welcome to Mooseport.
Yeah. He was like, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah. Homicide, the movie, which you had discussed
Yes.
before. Ladder 49. Never saw this. This is a firefighter movie.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix and was it Travolta?
Yeah, I think it's Travolta, yeah.
I saw it. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
I remember Backdraft pretty well.
Yep.
That should tell you something.
And then there's Shadow Conspiracy, which I did not see. So.
That was a Charlie Sheen, Donald Sutherland joint.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to?
How about we skip news and we just do rants, recommends, and
Okay.
questions?
Yeah. Why don't you do your rant, but do the one about the corporations?
Okay.
Rather than the Friends being 35 minutes long thing, since I think we've talked about that before.
We have.
And
You want to renew your objection and strenuously object.
yes,
Yes.
but I think that is a better one because I was actually considering that myself with we could almost combine news here with Comcast. Was it $65 million bid on Fox or $65 billion?
I just know that it's $35 a share, which is insane.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and now AT&T is buying Time Warner.
Yeah.
And-
Hasn't that already gone through?
I think
well-
it did just a couple days ago.
Yeah, well, I think it was just approved. But I think the I dotting and T crossing. But this, I don't want to choose a side between Disney and Comcast over who I think should get to buy Fox.
Exactly.
Because in a perfect world, Fox should be making their own movies and just continue without being sucked up. What's the Orwell book where all the corporations become one?
Is it 84?
1984?
1984, maybe?
Yeah.
I haven't read it in ages, but I feel like this is where we're headed. And we're all on Twitter, and we're making jokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're
exactly.
making jokes either about the president or about the president's enemies, whichever side you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, everyone with money is benefiting, and we are all getting fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Net neutrality, dead. Because the rich guys want more money. The Wall Street thing happened, what was that, 8 years ago? What came out of that? Not dick, right?
Yeah.
The credit card reporting agency has revealed all of your data, if you're an American, to basically the whole world. What was the Equifax?
Yeah.
Equifax.
Who's getting in trouble for that?
But they're sorry.
Yeah, they are sorry.
In fact, Wells Fargo, who lost everybody's money, is also sorry. And they were founded in 1858, refounded
That's
in
right.
2018.
And Facebook is sorry.
Facebook is sorry.
Facebook?
There was a run of ads on. I was watching the NBA Finals or something like that, but it was like 3 tech companies in a row coming on, like Uber and Facebook,
Yeah.
like Wells Fargo. They're like, "We're sorry."
It's like the South Park where there's the massive Exxon oil spill, or it was the one. Remember, it was the I guess it was the rig that blew up in the ocean or
The
whatever.
Deepwater Horizon?
Yeah. And so they had a South Park with whoever the CEO of Exxon was, and like there was always, you know how South Park does. Once they get something going, they run it right into the ground. Like, they have like 3 different cuts into this thing. So there's 3 different commercials they throw in there where the CEO of Exxon is like, "We just want to tell you how deeply sorry we are." And cut to him on a beach. "We're sorry." And then he's like naked in a bath or whatever. "So very sorry."
I think that we're missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
At least in America. I think it's probably a worldwide phenomenon that those in power are using us, right? Like, I don't want to get too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too out here.
You don't want to get Jaden Smith level.
I don't. But the Democrats and Republicans both benefit as long as there is never a third party. Even if they lose an election or lose control of the Senate, they're going to get it back eventually because there's only two choices. And they're all getting paid left and right by one company or another, right? So maybe Trump's taking money from the NRA, and so Barack Obama never did. You don't think Barack Obama took money from somebody?
It's interesting, too, though, what you're saying about the two parties and everything. I think it's been shown that we just can't have a third party.
Part of the reason, though, is that the media refuses to allow us to have a third party, and because the two parties in power refuse to let the third party participate in all the debates and get all the same kind of funding and whatnot. So they're basically cutting it off at the pass every time somebody tries to do a third party.
That's true, but I'm going to refer to a CGP Grey video that I saw where he talked about how even if you were to get a thriving third party, it's tough to it's still tough to end up without having two parties
because we're kind of black and white minded.
Yeah,
and then that's the problem, right? Like, if you hate Trump, eventually he's going to be out of office. Eventually another Democrat will win. It'll probably be a celebrity. I think the days of politicians running for office exclusively are done. We're going to get an Oprah or a Dwayne Johnson or somebody, Justin Bieber, somebody's
Tom
going to
Hanks.
run. Clooney wouldn't surprise me if he tried it at some point. It's just a pendulum swinging back and forth, and people who are legitimately poor are just getting poor. We're all just getting stepped on. And we're the ones who are doing their work for them by fueling the fire, by going on Twitter and yelling at each other. And what's changing? Nothing. They're all gobbling each other up. They own everything.
Well, it's going to be that idiocracy thing where you're going to be able to go to a Costco and there's like all the restaurants are there and you can get a hand job there.
Well, there's a guy at Starbucks that I go to. I go to the same Starbucks every day, and there's a guy there who's on a personal crusade to get me to sign up for the Starbucks app. Part because I feel like he sees me throwing money away if I'm going in there every day and buying an iced tea for myself and one for my wife. And he's like, you could have every 10th drink is free if you have the app and the stars and the whatnot. Well, I'm like, I'm not giving any more people my information. He's like, you don't think your phone company already has your information? And I was like, that's my point. They do. I'm not giving it to any new companies. Between Comcast, Verizon, T-Mobile, and my health insurance company and Google, everything about me is knowable. Yep. It's just a matter of time until the bad guys get their hands on it, right? And is that information worth anything to anyone, right? I have fairly harmless secrets.
Yeah.
I don't have the kind of secrets that I think Comcast is going to be like, oh God, that Jeremy guy from Cinemasins, he Googled this.
I know.
Get this to CNN now. But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like we're shouting into the void because we're not even paying attention to the problem. And the 1% is just getting 1% here. I'm sorry, that's not really even a very good rant. You probably want to cut all of that. I just last night when I saw that news about AT&T and then the Comcast bid came through for Fox, I'm just like, this is where the real shit is going down.
Does it really matter who buys Fox?
Well, no. From my perspective, the problem is that we're just watering down. We're putting all of the creative stuff in the hands of one company. It would be
certainly better if it wasn't Comcast and Disney or some company that already makes movies doing it.
Right.
We're already seeing what happens when Disney gets Marvel and it gets Star Wars, and it's like every week it seems like there's a new one of those movies coming out. With Comcast, they already own Universal. So you're going to have Universal and Fox together. I mean, it's just we need to have a different voice in here.
And they own NBC.
Yeah, they own NBC.
I mean, if you really boil it down, you've seen those images online. They change because everybody's always buying everything, but everything's owned ultimately by like 3 companies in the world.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just getting old, and I'm, old man yells at a cloud, right? I feel like we're arguing about all the wrong shit, and the underlying problems are just getting worse while we do it. So anyway, there's my rant.
That's a good rant.
I agree. It is good. It is a good rant. It's not entirely movie related, but I like it better than talking about Friends for 35 minutes. But like that's
They're doing that everywhere now. It's not
know.
just Friends.
I know.
All half-hour sitcoms that are run on reruns are now 35 minutes, and they're just squeezing extra commercials
and
in.
they speed them up, too. They speed up the show.
It really annoys
by
me.
like a
Yep.
fraction of a second.
That's the three topics.
You're absolutely right, though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And like it, and I'm about to rant about something that pales in comparison. Why should I care about this? But I do. I don't know why. Every time I go into a movie theater and I see the trailer for Sorry to Bother You,
I
really like this trailer.
That's a very good trailer.
Yeah, you don't like this?
No, I actually have a very unique perspective on this trailer.
Okay.
The first time I saw it, didn't get it, didn't laugh much.
Mm-hmm.
Second time I saw it at home on my computer with the subtitles turned on YouTube, loved it.
Oh, okay.
I'm half deaf. I think I just didn't catch some of what was going on.
Yeah.
Because the only joke that stood out to me is that one that you talked about, that where he does his white voice or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was the only one that played to the audience I was with as well. But then when I got home and I watched the whole thing, I was like, no, this whole fucking thing looks absurd.
Yeah, I'm on board for this. It looks so different and funny and everything. But every time I'm in a theater, when this trailer comes on, people laugh at the one time where you hear his white voice, and then the rest of it, it seems like bewilderment. And this in some way ties to what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Because people aren't open-minded.
Yeah.
And they see something weird and like just a little bit off, and it's like, no, I don't want that in my life. I don't want any of this new stuff in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that trailer is fun and funny all the way through, but like just listening to the dead silence just kills me inside.
Yeah.
Because people want those easy jokes that we've heard 100 million times, right?
Yeah, I
The
think
ones that people get pissed at us for saying happen in every movie a million times. This is not doing that. And finally, we've got something different. Now, who knows? It may suck. That movie may suck for all I know, but I'm going to be there.
Now, when does it
Yeah.
come out?
I think it's in the next couple of weeks, maybe
And
July.
Who's the filmmaker? The actor's the guy from Atlanta, right?
Yeah, Lakeith Stanfield is in it, and Tessa Thompson, and of course Tessa Thompson's in everything.
She is. How
How
did that happen?
I don't know, but I'm glad that they've made that choice.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the choice, but she went from nowhere to everywhere like that.
Yeah. So Boots Riley wrote and directed it.
I feel like it's like a up-and-comer or like a first-time director.
Yeah,
or
he's done a lot of soundtracks, and he's done a lot of like scores. And
like
stuff.
somebody who might have a unique voice.
Yeah,
a
exactly.
unique approach to filmmaking.
Yeah.
The other thing about that trailer is that they muddied it up by putting all the reviews on there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is distracting. And actually, when we were watching the trailer before Deadpool with Leonard and Jesse Moulton, he looked over and he was like, people complain about criticism, but then you put all that stuff up there during the trailer to validate the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does that really make me want to see it anymore? I guess it's like, you probably haven't heard of this, so other people like it, so you're fine.
Well, that's what they're doing, right? Because I think their fear is that, because this was a festival darling, and I'm guessing some studio swooped in, bought it, and now they're going to roll it out for distribution, and they maybe don't have the faith in it they should.
Yeah.
Maybe they just know America is stupid. And so when you get that kind of shit on a trailer, especially a theatrical trailer, like television commercials I'm used to seeing, like critic quips and whatnot, or Rotten Tomatoes scores. But when you get it in a theatrical trailer, they're concerned about drawing in the audience, right?
Mhm.
And maybe it's just a hard film to boil down to a 2-minute trailer.
There's even a scene in there that I don't even quite know what's going on. There's several scenes like that in the trailer, but Armie Hammer gives him a note that says, "I'm giving you $100 million," which I'm assuming is like an indecent proposal type of thing. And he's like, "Cash!" And he's like, Armie Hammer, "Cash!" And it always makes me laugh to see that. I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like the same sort of deal is going on with this movie Hereditary, by the way. And if we get to that, I'll talk about that as well. But there's just an opposition to anything new or different or change or anything like that. And I encounter this daily. Like, if you say, "Hey, let's try this for one fucking time," people go, oh, that's just not going to work. How do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know it's not going to work? What, could we try it once and then say, oh, yeah, bad idea afterwards?
Man, you're basically describing my sex life right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Can we try at least once?
You always use the knuckle. You use the knuckle, right?
He goes with the swirl. It's so obvious.
That's right.
That was a counterclockwise swirl.
I got a short and sweet rant about Twitter accounts and brands. And it's fucking annoying because IHOP had this whole rebranding thing stunt.
Dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, it is dumb. It's IHOB because they wanted to focus on burgers. So they put the B at the end. Do whatever you want to, IHOP. It's stupid, but do whatever you want to. And then now it's not just people ridiculing you. It's fucking brands ridiculing you. So Wendy's gets on there and they say something quippy about how, well, I guess we're not real worried about them taking over burgers when pancakes are too hard. Oh!
Yeah, the whole internet acted like that was the burniest burn.
Fuck you, Wendy's.
I actually have almost tweeted this a bunch in the last 2 weeks, so I'm glad this is your topic, because once a brand gets too good at Twitter, I start trusting it less.
Yeah.
Like, I am personally, I don't speak for everybody, I'm less likely to go to IHOP or Wendy's now, after all.
Yeah.
Because you're both annoying.
I mean, Burger King's getting on there and like fucking moon pies.
Basically moon pie.
Moon pie. Like Netflix. And like, okay, I know you're trying to appeal to like a younger, hipper audience, and you got some 22-year-old on your Twitter account that's running shit, and you're poning brands and stuff like that. I don't fucking give a shit, and I certainly don't think it deserves the amount of attention that it gets on Twitter. And like, oh, Wendy's eviscerated IHOP. When that is something that you think about for more than 2 seconds, there's something fucked up about your life. And this is all related to Jeremy's rant.
Every day I look at the trending topics on Twitter, and I think, what have we become?
Yeah.
Because it's always one or two important topics, and then a bunch of shit like Wendy's own and IHOP on Twitter.
It's good birth control, isn't it?
I guess. I mean, on the one hand, I want to scold everybody for that, but on the other hand, I do plenty of frivolous things throughout the day. I'm not devoting 24 hours of every day to fighting injustice.
Right.
And so I can't expect everybody else to do that, right? I make stupid joke videos on YouTube for fun, right? So, I mean, have your fun, but it can be frustrating when we give it this much weight. Like, I almost tweeted yesterday because the Wrap or Deadline tweeted out, Jim Carrey's latest painting is Trump and Kim Jong-un, and I almost tweeted at them saying, do we have to have an article every time Jim Carrey paints a fucking painting now?
It seems like we do.
Why?
I know.
Because you want fucking clicks. That's why there's an article every time for every movie that comes out now. You can find an article. Does this movie have an end credit scene? Does this movie have an end credit scene? What time is the Super Bowl? Every year, people write articles. I've done this when I was a writer for hire. You write an article about the Super Bowl because people are searching for the Super Bowl. And you'll have websites that have no interest in sports telling you what time the Super Bowl is on, like Good Housekeeping, because they want your fucking click.
Yeah.
Because they're turning around and selling that to an advertiser who's not paying enough attention to what they're buying. Sorry. I'm angry today. What are we doing now? Recommend?
Yeah, let's recommend. Since we're in such a good mood, let's recommend some movies.
Totes Amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
I've got a good one. I've got a good, like, evergreen classic thing that also was a hole in my resume until last night, actually. It's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, good one.
1969, Robert Redford, Paul Newman.
This is George Roy Hill who directed this?
Yes.
Yeah.
This movie is freaking amazing, and it stands as amazing. Now, you know how when you watch 2001 now, it was 1968, it still seems as glorious and innovative and everything as it was then. Now, obviously, this is not on that level, but it is an absolute masterpiece.
What are we talking about?
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
If you want to know what sex symbols were a generation ago or a generation or two ago, It's Paul Newman and Robert Redford together.
Mm-hmm.
This is Robert Redford when he was fairly young.
Mm-hmm.
This is younger than the Sting, actually. That was 73.
Same crew. On that
Yeah,
one.
exactly. And Newman is just so goddamn charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his whole thing is that he never fires a shot. He's never killed anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But he can talk his way out of situations, and he's so charismatic. And Robert Redford is so fucking cool. And the scenery in Wyoming is right up your alley, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And like it's just gorgeous. And I would highly recommend it. I know it's an old classic, and people don't like watching old classic movies and all that stuff, but it is totally worth your time. It's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good call. I don't really have a full recommend. My recommend comes with a warning.
Okay.
My wife and I've told you this before, we're into this thing now where we try and find a new stand-up comedy special on Netflix and watch it together after we make a meal, kind of like a in-home date kind of a thing.
Nice.
And those are perfect because most stand-up comedy specials are an hour long, so it's not as big a commitment as like a movie. And stand-up comedy is the kind of thing where you can be pretty average at it and still get a laugh out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be pretty bad for me to have a bad time. So we watched the new special from Tig Notaro.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that
I think that's right.
Have you guys seen this, either one of you?
I haven't.
I haven't seen this one. I've seen her before, and she's hilarious.
She is actually the more you research her, the more amazed you'll be that she can even be funny.
Yeah.
Because she's been dealt some of the shittiest hands in life. The new special is called Happy to Be Here. And it's for 40 minutes. It's great. My wife and I are already quoting this on the regular and working some of her lines into our life. And she's just got a very fun delivery. Kind of almost, I'm accidentally funny. Sorry. Kind of a casual delivery. But then at the end of this special, the reason I have to give you a warning is that at the end of this special, she makes a joke where she's like, ladies and gentlemen, the Indigo Girls. And she backs off stage and the crowd erupts and nobody comes out. And she walks back up on stage. She's like, you guys actually fell for that. And she rambles. She drags this out for 20 minutes, doing this over and over. The same joke.
Huh.
No, of course I couldn't get the... Ladies and gentlemen, the Indigo Girls. And backs off stage. Nobody comes out. And then eventually they do come out and play a song. And by that point, you've burned all my goodwill. Like,
Yeah.
I turned to my wife very early on in this thing, and I was like, because she made a joke earlier about Ellen DeGeneres and being at Ellen's birthday party or something. Of course, Ellen's a producer of this show. They're good friends. But I turned to my wife after the second Indigo Girls false announcement and said, they're either coming out for real or Ellen DeGeneres is coming out for real. And this is a bait and switch. But there's no way no one's coming out because she's already just doing it twice. She's already devoted. And then she just kept going and going. And it turns out she saw the Indigo Girls in concert in the same building she's recording this comedy special. This is a big deal for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. And maybe you indulge yourself a little bit announcing your idols. I don't know. But to just average viewer guy out there,
It sounds a lot like what happens in Deadpool 2, like a
it
premise
is.
dragged out.
Well, and it kind of turns her from a stand-up comic into Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, you're enjoying the joke more than anyone else is. And so it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And I like the Indigo Girls.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to sit through 20 minutes of false starts.
Yeah.
I mean, just give it to me or don't. It almost made me wonder if she ran out of material.
There are
Maybe.
some jokes that get better if you just keep doing it for a really long time, but that's very rarely the kind that work that way. I remember the Simpsons writers talking about this, where like there's a scene where Homer's falling downstairs or whatever, and it's like it's funny at first, and then like it goes on too long and it's not funny, but then it's just long enough where it's funny again as it keeps going. And I remember a Space Ghost Coast to Coast where he's like chasing after like a roach or something for the entire episode, and you're like keep wondering if the point is going to happen, and it never seems to. And then there's a Mr. Show where there's a guy who has scaled Everest, and he's coming home to tell everybody about how he scaled Everest. But he keeps, every time he gets to the big part of the story, he keeps running into this priceless collection of like, I don't know, figurines or something, and like they all fall to the ground and everything, and like they get it back up, and it's like, okay, as I was saying, and like he goes to it and he keeps smashing into it over and over, and there's a point where he just sighs a little bit and then falls into the thing out of nowhere. So yeah, there's some that work that way, but I think when you keep doing the like, this is gonna happen, and then you just keep pulling the rug out, that's where it really just gets, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, it's like Lucy with the football.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's my Wreck-A Warren, because the first 40 minutes is delightful.
Cool.
I have basically two Wreck-A Warrens. I'll go with my first one here. I saw a movie on Mubi called Last Year at Marienbad.
Mm-hmm.
Movie came out in 1961. French filmmaker by the name of, I'm going to mess this up probably, but it's Alain René, I believe is it. R-E-S-N-A-I-S, I believe, and there could be one of those weird French Resnais or whatever, but fuck it, I think it's René. Apparently, this is a movie that has both delighted and befuddled critics over the years. So you have some critics who put this in their all-time worst categories, and you have others who consider it one of the all-time best movies. It is notable in, I guess, not really this day and age, but it is notable for somewhat inspiring The Shining.
Interesting.
The way it's shot and everything like that.
Is there a hedge maze in this?
No, they are on a big, huge, like, palace of some sort.
Okay.
The movie is, I'm going to say, is somewhat frustrating because there isn't a narrative here that you're going to hold on to. This is a guy who meets a woman who says, we met last year, and they go through the story, and every time they try to get to that one point where you're like, oh, what happened? It just kind of goes back, and like some conversations will go from one room to one completely different part of the room, and it's like, he's like, do you remember? And she'll say, I don't remember, or whatever. And he's like, surely you do. And then she's like, I remember you coming by and I didn't want to see you. And then he's like, no, we were going to escape together. And it's this type of conversation all the way through. Now, some of you aren't going to have patience for this shit, but I love movies like this just because it's just sort of it's an interesting way to play with memory. And this, you never know what the deal is. Did the woman get killed by her husband? Did the guy who's talking to her do something to her that she doesn't want to remember? It's a lot of things like, it plays with memory. It plays with what we want to remember or repressed memories or whatever like that. And it goes like this along. I mean, the whole movie is like this. He's just going from room to room to room to outside to, we were out here, we were talking, we did this. It's all about this guy trying to get her to remember. And she's always, either she remembers some part of it or she doesn't remember at all. And it just goes back and forth like this.
I'm going to check this out.
You should watch it. If you're interested in like just really different kind of movies, that's one that you should take a look at. Like I said, if you're looking for a satisfying story of some sort and a great satisfying conclusion, you're not going to get that. And it's experimental, but it's also well shot, beautifully shot. It's just a movie that I would recommend if you were into something different.
Cool. Okay, I started off a movie really wanting to recommend it, and then took a hard turn into Warren.
Okay.
It's available on Amazon Instant. It's called Beatrice at Dinner. Salma Hayek, John Lithgow.
Oh, I remember this.
Have you seen
I've
it?
never seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Salma Hayek, John Lithgow, Connie Britton, and some other people. One of the Duplass brothers, Jay Duplass, is in this. And I like this type of setup. Very insular. It's a dinner party where there's going to be a lot of different conversations and a lot of different perspectives. Salma Hayek is like this holistic healer and from a low-income area in Los Angeles. And Connie Britton and her husband are these highfalutin, like politician, businessmen people who have a lot of means. And she comes up to give a treatment to Connie Britton, and she ends up staying for dinner, where all these really rich people are coming in. And John Lithgow comes in and plays almost like a Bill O'Reilly, Donald Trump type of gregarious businessman swinging dick. I don't give a shit. Of course, he mistakes Salma Hayek for the help. Insults her heritage. There's a portion where he's like, so where are you from? She's like, well, I'm from Los Feliz or from Los Angeles or something like that. And he's like, where are you really from?
Which
mimics actually something that happened, on the campaign trail back a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So here's where the movie goes wrong for me. I love this type of thing. I love, tense dinner conversations. I love open dialogue like my dinner with Andre and stuff like that. And so I was fully on board. I wanted to get behind this. But it's so fucking ham-handed with how it presents arguments for and against. There's zero nuance. Lithgow is a complete bastard. There's no redeeming quality to him whatsoever. Salma Hayek, her methodology, her worldview is correct, and she's got a direct opposition to this guy. And everybody is on one side or the other of this. And it's only like maybe 90 minutes or something like that, but it feels almost exhausting at the end of it. So even though I was, great premise, tremendous actors, I would not recommend you waste your time on
this. This is written by Mike White, and it was directed by Miguel Arteta. This is a pretty good writer-director team.
I know. And you could see something good in this. You could see, like, a real dialogue, a real interesting movie in here that has big ideas, but it becomes caricatures, and I can't get behind that. You gotta rub off the edges of it a little bit, or sharpen the edges of it to really get me through the whole thing.
I saw a pretty interesting take from Rob Schneider and his take on Donald Trump, or Alec Baldwin's Donald Trump. Did we talk about this on the podcast?
I don't think so.
He gave an interview where he basically talked about not being a fan of Baldwin's version of Trump because it's so obvious in his portrayal that he has contempt for Trump. And comedy is better when it's more nuanced and there is some empathy, however you get there, for the person you're making fun of. I think that kind of plays into what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a difference between Will Ferrell's George W. Bush, who actually you could tell believes what he's saying in the character versus, Baldwin, who you can see is just going through the motions. I find myself agreeing with Rob Schneider.
Yeah. Now, I think there may be some murkiness to his motivations, but just from a comedy standpoint, I felt like he was putting into words what I had felt already, that I've never found Baldwin's Trump funny. I've never found that funny. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Yeah. My Warren is a pretty decent movie. American Made with Tom Cruise.
You ever notice, by the way, we keep recommending our warnings? Like we kind of like these bad movies for not bad movies, but we see the beauty in some of these movies we're warning against.
Yes. Yeah. In this case, what makes me want to warn against this movie and what made me not enjoy this movie is there's nothing done in this film that you haven't seen before.
Yeah.
This is Doug Liman, Tom Cruise, running guns. And I think I said in my email to you guys, this is Blow meets Lord of War, and there's no reason to watch this movie.
All right.
There's no reason to make this movie. I kept waiting for some unique wrinkle. Even that one with Jonah Hill about gun running.
Oh, War Dogs.
Covered a lot of this. Lord of War, War Dogs. Why do we have so many movies about running guns?
I don't know.
Anyway, Tom Cruise has a plane, flies down, gets some shit, flies back. Nothing really matters. He's never in any jeopardy. He's telling you the whole story.
Yeah.
It's like the night and day of gun running movies. It's completely harmless. He's perfect. He's superhero Jesus, and the humor is okay. It's okay. It's perfectly okay.
I saw probably, no joke, like 20 trailers for this movie on other movies. Starting beginning of last year.
It was on everything.
And I think I said the same thing every time just from the trailer. That's not a real good thing to do. But I was like, what ground is this covering? Yeah. I've seen this movie.
I don't know why.
I don't really need this movie at all.
I want to know what drew because we were just talking about Tom Cruise and he's got all the money in the world and maybe he needs motivation personally to make a movie. There's none of that in here.
Isn't it R-rated? Isn't it like a little bit harder than his other movies?
Its rating was forgettable. I don't know. Probably, yeah. There's probably some fucks in there or something. I don't know.
It is R-rated.
I couldn't see anything in there that would have drawn these two really talented people. It's almost like an Adam Sandler movie where they just wanted to hang out for a bit on location somewhere as buddies.
And it's Donald Gleason too, right?
Yeah, Donald Gleason's in it, and again, one of the more forgettable Donald Gleasons. He's kind of basically playing Hux here.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, don't waste your time. Just go.
I'm actually glad you said that because I saw that on demand on HBO, and I was thinking, maybe I'll pull the trigger on that. But I was like, no, there's nothing in there for me.
There's nothing. It's bringing nothing new to the table.
Yeah.
So.
My now I have it says Recca Warren. I'm recommending this movie, but the reason why I put Warren on there is that if you watch Hereditary and you expect this to be like, oh, this is the like a pop Conjuring type horror movie that I'm recommending here, you do not want to go to this. But if you want to go in with an open mind, then I think you will like this. Problem is with Hereditary is even I, by the end of this movie, wondered, do I like that ending? I don't know if I like that ending. And I know it befuddled a whole bunch of people that I watched it with because it's one of those type of endings where like you get up from your seat and everybody's like, what?
I'm seeing this tonight, actually, so I'm looking forward to it.
By the way, that's exactly what happened in my row at Infinity War. Not to bring up an old debate, but when Infinity War ended, the daughter of my friend that I took to the movie, she was like, what? It's over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie, when we were talking about Blair Witch Project and everything, obviously this movie is not anything like the Blair Witch Project, but I think with what it sets up, just everything about this from the moment it starts, you just get an uneasy feeling about. And there's a building between this family. There's something building up between this family that you just know it's not going to end well. And there are two moments in this movie that Toni Collette at a dinner table talking to her son that you will almost just, not because of fear or anything, but just because of the sheer dramatic tension, you will want to jump out of your seat. And another scene later on with her son too is another one that's just the way the horror is in this movie, it is set up to sort of give you nightmares, I believe. So that is my recommend out of this. I can't talk about the movie too much because you do want to see this and discover things for yourself. There was one thing that happened in this movie, and I'm not going to get into it or anything, but I kind of expected it to happen because it had not been spoiled, but just it was one of those type of things. The way they described it, I was like, oh, this is what's happening.
This is A24, right?
A24, who did another movie that I think befuddled a lot of people last year. Another horror movie last year was We Come at Night, I believe.
It Comes at Night.
It Comes at Night.
I did not like that movie.
I haven't
at all.
seen it.
I'd be interested to, after seeing Hereditary, to compare them because that got so much love, critical love. It Comes at Night. And I just did not. Yeah, I could not get on board with that movie.
Hereditary is running that the witch type of thing where critics have a 90% or so on it, and audiences are trashing it.
Yeah, well, the cinema score was
D+. D+ for this, which was worse than The Witch, which had a C-, I believe. This is like sort of an anti-Cinemasins horror movie because a lot of the different things that happen in this, where you're like, what the fuck, have explanations. And when I mean anti-Cinemasins, I mean pro-Cinemasins because they actually have reasons for everything that happens. And it's one of those type of things where, oh, okay, so all the reasons are building up to this. Now, whether you like this movie or not depends on whether you like the ending. And that's why I'm sort of kind of on the fence about it because I think I have to watch it a few more times before I finally give it like a letter grade of some sort. I think as far as everything leading up to it, A+.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
But if you're just going in and you're hoping to see The Conjuring, you're not going to see the movie that you want to see.
All right.
So
good
there you go.
Stuff.
All right. I think you sold that well.
Yeah, I hope so. I
have actually seen in multiple places people compare Hereditary to two specific movies, and I believe that comparison spoiled the movie for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that may be part of what you're referencing, that thing that you knew was coming. Might have been how someone described the film to you. I think it's tapping into the same thing.
Yeah, and even, quite honestly, even me saying that, I don't really want to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
But the way it was described in the review, I knew to look for it.
Right.
And I knew immediately what we were going for. But anyway, yes, I recommend this movie, even though it's in my warnings. The reason why it's in my warnings is if you like pop horror, you're not going to like this. If you like movies that sort of like afterwards, you're like, oh shit, I don't know what I feel about that. Then go watch this shit.
I do like those.
Yeah. Once again, no time for questions.
That's all right. We'll get them next time.
I mean, I don't know when we'll get to questions again. Actually, we may have to have another mailbag episode.
Gonna have an interesting episode next week.
But all right. So no time for questions today again, of course, unfortunately. But anyway, we'll get to those at some point for sure. That'll do it for this week. Keep going to Sincast, presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. Keep going to Twitter. Keep going to SoundCloud. You know, all these things that we railed against today. And tell us what you thought about this episode. But that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
During a baseball, like a spring practice or whatever, we were doing a lot of those, and man, it had been the entire summer since I had done any real exercise.
Yeah.
I went and threw up in the bathroom.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's rough. Anytime you were late at football practice, we had this giant tire.
Mm-hmm.
You had to strap in on a harness with the giant tire and run around the entire parking lot. And at Lipscomb, the football field over there off of Caldwell.
Mm-hmm.
You have to run around the entire parking lot with that fucking thing strapped to your back. And that was that's when we were doing 2-a-day. I don't know if you can even do those now.
No, I don't think you can.
But we were doing 2-a-days right at the beginning of summer practice. So it was like 110 degrees outside. And I'm fucking doing this. I was never late. It was like literally 2 minutes or something like that.
I'm telling you, man.
Coach Mack.
I played baseball all the way up until high school when you had to run.
Yeah.
I switched over to golf. I got to college and I thought about playing baseball. Nope. Got to run.
Yeah.
They call it conditioning, but really it's just you're basically playing baseball and cross country.
Yeah.
It's a two-sport, and I never understood that because I'm really only running the 90 feet every now and then.
Yeah, it's not it's a sedentary sport pretty much.
I mean, I run a little bit in the field, but it's not even like basketball where you're like running all the time and you actually do need good conditioning. It's baseball. God, especially when I'm playing outfield, I might as well be studying.
Did you ever have to do mental toughness drills?
Ooh, they might have called it something different. What is it?
So there were
It's where they stick a cucumber in your ass.
That's right.
It's where they
correct.
touch your peppy Steve.
You probably can't get away with that nowadays. High schools are just pussies.
My uncle used to play something called mental toughness drills with me.
But there were 3, I think. The 2 that I remember is 1, you get up against a wall and you sit down without a chair.
Yeah.
And you sit there
Cheers,
while the coach walks back and forth and everything. And of course, some people can do it and everything. I never could. I was never mentally tough.
Well, it's also like all on your thighs too, so you start like shaking and all that.
Yeah, that sounds a little physical too.
Well, yeah, I would sit there. You're basically just your legs are just imagine me without a chair, and you're just sitting there like this, and it's like. And I think he did this on purpose. He paced back and forth so that some of you could kind of like, oh God, I gotta get up for a second, and then you get right back down in position when he turned around. And then there was another one where you lie down on the floor and you would lift your legs up about 6 inches. Mm-hmm. And you would keep them there for a long time. So they were almost always stuff where you just didn't have support where you normally did, and you would just keep your whatever it is up, or wherever, and then that would be your mental toughness.
They did this kind of thing as a punishment in my school with books. Mm-hmm. You had to stand in the Jesus Christ pose with your palms up, and they'd put books on your hands, and you had to stay level. And if you dropped, the punishment got even worse.
Jesus.
We were kind of tortured as kids.
Did you ever get paddled
Yes.
in school?
Yes. I wasn't a bad kid. I was a pretty good kid.
Yeah, but you got paddled.
I had my moments.
In public, or was it like out in the hall?
It was in the office.
Oh, okay. They would do like public paddlings at my school.
See, that's
like come to the front of the room.
That's like biblical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like shame. Shame.
Exactly.
I don't remember getting paddled. I do remember it being threatened,
Yeah.
and I think people were paddled. I remember this one. I guess a couple of kids were way more advanced than I was because all three of us got in trouble for something. We all were sent to some closet of some sort or whatever, so that the teacher could admonish us for whatever we did. And I was upset. I was like, "Oh my God, my dad's going to find out about this. This is going to be horrible, and he's going to kill me and all that, whatever." And I started crying, and I was like, "Oh, I just want my dad." Blah blah blah. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and the other one of the other kids just started laughing, and I was like, "Do you know something I don't?"
Wasn't his first rodeo.
Yeah. And apparently, we were just going to get a talking to, and then I thought it was going to be much worse.
My American history teacher he was real obsessed with Theodore Roosevelt. So his paddle was called the Big Stick, like speak softly and carry a big stick. And like it was a badge of honor to get paddled by this guy. This is like a 80-year-old man that's all like, senile essentially. And like you could cut class, and then the next day you tell him, "No, I was totally here," and be like, "Oh, okay, I guess I just didn't see you." And so, but I walked in late one time, and he was like, "Come to the front, I'm going to paddle you with the big stick
For being tardy?
And I was like, "No." And he was like, "No, you got to get up here and get your paddling." And I was like, "No, that is not going to happen. You can levy any other punishment on me right now. I am not having you whack my ass with that fucking thing right now." And he's like, "All right." And then he just moved on.
Nice.
I knew a guy who said in a high school class, he took a test where he knew nothing. He knew nothing. Knew he was going to fail the test, all that. So he spent the whole time pretending that he was going to take, I guess he wrote down some answers or whatever, but at the end of class, when everybody's turning their test in, he's like, "I aced that test. I know I did," like talking to the teacher as he's handing the test in or whatever. And when the teacher wasn't looking, threw the test in the trash.
Oh.
And so like then when the teacher came back and was like, "I didn't have your test here," he's like, "Look, you saw me put it down on the pile.
That's awesome.
You know that I passed that easily." And he was able to retake the test.
Oh shit, that's next level shit.
Yes,
right
it
there.
is.
That is next
Wow.
level.
I mean, obviously, if you're ever going to try that, handle with care. You can't just be stupid about it.
No, you got to be the artful dodger with
That
that
should
shit.
be like an Ocean's 11 plot.
Yeah.
That's something I realized writing Sins for that is how bad movies are at, like, there's no good way to portray pickpocketing in movies, right?
Yeah.
Because for the audience to see it, you have to slow it down or do these
zoom right
multiple
in.
cuts that make it super obvious and stand outy. I just think that's funny. You can't really film it.
Or you'll see that there's no way that they were ever near the person, and then they've somehow got their watch and
That
everything
fucking guy
else.
on the L in Chicago keeping his fucking wallet like in his breast pocket.
No,
that was
yeah.
the most annoying part of that. Too.
Yeah.
Well, and he had one of those long checkbook wallets. Fuck those people, man.
Yeah, they deserve. It's like sticking out of his pocket.
Seriously.